Rain slicks the cracked asphalt as a black SUV glides through the quiet outskirts of a small Midwestern town. Inside, Kendra Miles keeps her eyes fixed on the road, hands steady on the wheel. She's dressed casually, jeans, leather jacket, and dark aviators, but every movement is calculated. Her destination isn't on any map, and her mission is buried deep inside encrypted CIA files. She's less than an hour away from a safe house where a key witness waits, a man whose testimony could bring down a multi-state trafficking network. In her rearview mirror, flashing red and blue lights break the calm. Her jaw tightens. She isn't speeding. She hasn't run a light. Still, the siren grows louder. A beat-up police cruiser pulls close, practically kissing her bumper. She signals, eases to the side, and stops. The rain drums harder against the roof. The officer steps out, broad shoulders straining against his damp uniform. His name tag reads Harlan. He's got that swagger, the slow, deliberate walk of someone who thinks the badge makes him untouchable. His face is twisted into a smirk before he even reaches her window. "License and registration," he says, not even looking at her, just scanning the interior like he's hunting for trouble. Kendra passes them over without a word. Her CIA training tells her to keep her voice calm, movements slow. But Harlan doesn't like the silence. "You from around here?" he asks, still not meeting her gaze. "No," she answers flatly. "Figures." He chuckles to himself, then leans in closer. "Step out of the car." Kendra's mind races. Protocol says to avoid unnecessary exposure. She could flash a fake ID, smooth this over. But the man in the safe house doesn't have time for delays. Every minute she's stuck here, the network gets closer to finding him. She stays put. "Is there a problem, officer?" His smirk hardens. "Yeah, problem is, I don't like your attitude. Out. Now." When she doesn't move fast enough, he yanks the door open. Rain slaps against her as his hand clamps onto her arm. The grip is rough, almost performative, like he wants any passing driver to see his authority on display. He pulls her out, spins her toward the hood. "You think you can just drive through my town without answering questions?" he snarls. Her fingers twitch. She could disarm him in 2 moves, break his wrist in 3. But she forces herself to breathe, to wait. There's too much at stake to blow her cover. Then his eyes land on a small black case in the passenger seat, the one holding her encrypted comm device. "What's this?" He reaches for it. Kendra's voice sharpens. "That's personal property." Harlan ignores her, pulling the case toward him. The moment his fingers brush the latch, she moves. Fast, precise. She twists free of his grip, spins him against the SUV, and pins his arm behind his back. It happens so quickly he barely has time to gasp. "You're assaulting an officer," he shouts. "And you're interfering with federal business," she says, voice low enough for only him to hear. For a second, confusion flickers in his eyes. Then she lets go, stepping back just as another cruiser turns the corner. Back up. This is bad. 2 more officers step out, hands on their holsters. Harlan regains his smugness, pointing at her like he's just caught a dangerous fugitive. "She resisted arrest. Cuff her." Kendra raises her hands, letting them approach. Her heart rate is steady, but her mind is calculating. If they detain her, her mission's over. The witness is as good as dead. One officer moves in with cuffs, but she speaks before he can grab her. "Check my left jacket pocket, there's an ID you'll want to see." Harlan scoffs. Don't listen to her, she's lying. But the younger officer hesitates, reaching into her pocket. He pulls out a thin leather wallet, flips it open, and freezes. His eyes widen. The silver badge inside doesn't belong to any local department. It reads, Central Intelligence Agency, the air shifts. The younger officer stammers, sir, we might have a... Harlan snatches the wallet, scanning the badge. His smirk falters for the first time. Kendra steps closer, her voice like steel. "I'm on an active mission. You've just compromised it." Before anyone can respond, a black sedan roars past, splashing water onto the roadside. Kendra's head snaps toward it, recognition flaring in her eyes. That's one of the network's vehicles. They're ahead of schedule. She moves, sliding back into her SUV. "If you want to explain to the FBI why you let a human trafficking suspect get away, be my guest. Otherwise, get out of my way." The younger officer steps back immediately. Harlan doesn't move, but something in her tone roots him to the spot. Tires squeal as she pulls away, rain blurring the world into streaks of gray and red. In the rear view, the cops grow smaller until they vanish entirely. Ahead, the hunt has already begun. Kendra's foot slams the accelerator and the SUV surges forward. The black sedan is already weaving through traffic ahead, its tinted windows swallowing the dim light. Rain blurs her vision, but she doesn't need a perfect view. Her instincts are locked onto that vehicle like a predator on prey. Her mind flashes through the dossier. The sedan belongs to a mid-level operative named Victor Marsek, a ghost in Eastern European smuggling rings. He's the one delivering the witness to a kill team. If he reaches the state line, her mission becomes infinitely more complicated. She can't allow that. Kendra keeps her distance, headlights dimmed. In the CIA, tailing is as much about patience as speed. But Marsek's driver isn't cautious. He's panicked. The sedan swerves dangerously around a pickup, nearly clipping its bumper before cutting into the next lane. Horns blare. The wet pavement gleams like a mirror, reflecting red taillights and street lamps. Kendra grips the wheel tighter, her breathing steady. Every few seconds, she checks her mirrors. No sign of the local cops. Good. They won't be in the way now. The sedan makes a sudden right turn onto a narrow service road. Kendra follows, tires hissing against the soaked asphalt. Here, the streetlights vanish, replaced by shadows of overgrown trees. Branches whip against her windshield. The only sound is the rhythmic thump of the wipers and the distant roar of the other car. She pulls a small earpiece from her pocket, fitting it in place. Control, this is Shadow 9. Target is mobile, heading east on Old Mill Road. No backup. I repeat, no backup. The reply crackles with static. Copy that, Shadow 9. Safehouse reports movement in the perimeter. They may know you're coming. Her gut clenches. Understood. I'll intercept. The road ahead twists sharply, forcing her to slow. For a brief moment, she loses sight of the sedan. Then it reappears, parked halfway off the road with the driver's door open. Her eyes narrow. A trap. She kills the headlights and eases forward, stopping 50 feet away. The rain has slowed to a mist, but the air feels heavier, thick with tension. Through the shadows, she spots movement. 2 figures crouched near the tree line. Armed. Waiting. They're not amateurs. Their posture tells her they expect her to come charging in. She unclips her seatbelt and slides out silently, boots sinking into the mud. Every step is measured, controlled. The CIA doesn't train operatives to win fair fights. It trains them to end them before they start. A twig snaps underfoot, but she's already moving, keeping low. She flanks left, coming up behind one of the men. The smell of cigarette smoke mixes with the damp air. In a fluid motion, she locks an arm around his neck, cutting off his breath. He struggles for 3 seconds before going limp. She lowers him to the ground quietly. The second man senses movement and spins, raising a pistol. Kendra dives sideways as the shot rings out, the bullet slicing through wet leaves. She rolls, mud streaking her jacket, and comes up behind him. Her knee drives into the back of his leg, forcing him down. The gun clatters away. 2 quick strikes to the jaw and temple drop him cold. She hears an engine roar to life. The sedan. Marsek must have been waiting for his men to neutralize her. She sprints back to her SUV, heart pounding but focus razor sharp. The chase resumes, faster and more dangerous. They burst from the wooded road back onto the highway, water spraying in arcs from their tires. Marsek is pushing 90 now, desperate to shake her. Trucks loom like dark monoliths in the rain, their lights cutting through the haze. Kendra's phone vibrates. She puts it on speaker. Talk? It's Control again. Shadow 9? Satellite feed confirms you're heading toward the bridge into Riverton. Be advised, the bridge is under construction. Only 1 lane open. A smile flickers on her lips. Then I'll make that lane mine. She floors it. The distance closes. 2 car lengths, 1. She aligns with the sedan, nudging closer until her bumper almost kisses his rear fender. The bridge's steel frame looms ahead, its skeletal beams vanishing into mist. At the last second before entering the single lane, Kendra cuts right, slamming her SUV into the sedan's rear quarter panel. The impact jolts her teeth. Marsek's car fishtails, tires screeching on the wet surface. He overcorrects, and the vehicle skids sideways, smashing into the concrete barrier with a sickening crunch. Kendra brakes hard, stopping a few feet ahead. Steam hisses from the sedan's crumpled hood. She's out of the SUV in an instant, weapon drawn, approaching cautiously. The driver's door bursts open. Marsek stumbles out, blood streaking his forehead. "Get down!" she commands. But he bolts, limping toward the bridge's edge. She closes the distance in seconds, tackling him hard enough to rattle his bones. He struggles, spitting curses in a language she knows too well. She pins him, twisting his arm until he cries out, "Where's the witness?" she demands. His eyes flicker. Fear, defiance, calculation. "Too late," he rasps. "He's already—" A gunshot cracks through the night. The sound ricochets off the bridge supports. Marsek goes slack beneath her. Sniper. Kendra dives behind the sedan, scanning the distant rooftops beyond the bridge. Another shot hits the metal railing inches from her head. She grabs Marsek's phone from his pocket before retreating to her SUV. The witness's life just became even more endangered. She throws the SUV into reverse, tires screaming as she backs off the bridge. Whoever's pulling the strings is watching, and now they know she's here. But they still don't know one thing. She's not leaving without that witness. Kendra speeds away from the bridge, the city's glow flickering through the mist ahead. Her knuckles are white on the steering wheel, the adrenaline still burning through her veins. The phone she yanked from Marsek's pocket lies on the passenger seat, its cracked screen flashing faintly. She keeps one eye on the road and the other on her mirrors. No headlights following, but that doesn't mean she's alone. Whoever fired those shots had skill. A sniper that precise doesn't work freelance. This is coordinated. When the road widens, she pulls off under the cover of an abandoned gas station canopy. The rain has stopped, leaving a humid chill in the air. She slips on a pair of gloves and picks up the phone. The lock screen demands a passcode. She studies the smudges across the glass, mapping them in her head. 4619. She punches them in. The device unlocks. Her eyes scan the messages. Most are coded. Strings of numbers, street names she doesn't recognize. But one stands out. A location pin dropped just 20 minutes ago. She zooms in. A warehouse near the Riverton docks. The message is short, almost casual. Cargo arrives tonight, package must be intact. The package is the witness. Kendra's earpiece crackles to life. Shadow 9, status? I have a lead, she replies, eyes fixed on the map. Riverton docks, warehouse 19, possible witness transfer point. Send me satellite imagery. Copy, but be careful. Our feed shows multiple heat signatures in the area. They're not dock workers. She starts the SUV again, merging back onto the road. The city closes in, neon lights reflected in puddles, sirens wailing somewhere far off. Riverton after dark has a way of swallowing people whole, and tonight it feels like the streets themselves are watching her. By the time she reaches the waterfront, the air smells of salt and diesel. Massive cranes loom overhead, silhouetted against the night sky. She parks 2 blocks away and moves on foot, her black jacket blending with the shadows. The warehouse is lit only by a single overhead lamp, casting a pale cone onto the wet pavement. 2 armed guards stand at the entrance, their breath visible in the cold air. They're talking quietly, unaware that someone is already moving toward them. Kendra crouches behind a stack of shipping crates, assessing the angles. The guards are sloppy, feet too close together, hands resting lazily on their rifles. She removes a small device from her pocket, a palm-sized EMP pulse generator. With a flick of her wrist, she tosses it toward a nearby light post. The pulse cuts through the air with a faint pop. The overhead lamp fizzles out, plunging the area into darkness. Confused voices rise. She's already moving. She sweeps the first guard's legs from under him, his rifle clattering to the ground. The second barely has time to react before she drives an elbow into his throat, silencing him. Both are unconscious within seconds. Inside, the warehouse smells of oil and rust. A dim row of emergency lights glows along the ceiling, painting everything in a sickly red hue. Shipping containers line the walls, their doors sealed shut. Somewhere deeper inside, a voice shouts in a language she can't quite make out. Slavic, maybe Czech. She moves quietly between the rows, ears tuned to every sound. Then she sees him. The witness. A thin man in a gray hoodie, hands bound, sitting on a crate. 2 more guards flank him, one scrolling through a phone, the other smoking. She needs them gone. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a coin-sized flashbang. From her position, she flicks it forward. It rolls to a stop just feet from the smoker. The blinding light and sharp crack fill the room. The guards shout, disoriented. Kendra rushes in, striking the first in the ribs hard enough to drop him. The second swings blindly. She sidesteps and sweeps his legs out, sending him crashing onto the concrete. The witness stares at her, wide-eyed. Who? Not now, she cuts in, pulling a small knife to slice his restraints. We have 60 seconds before more arrive. Can you run? He nods shakily. They move fast, retracing her path through the warehouse. But as they near the exit, headlights blaze through the open doors. 2 black SUVs screech to a stop outside. The sound of boots hitting pavement echoes in the night. Kendra pushes the witness back into cover. "Stay here." She steps into the open, gun raised, as half a dozen men fan out from the vehicles. Their leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, smirks. "You're making a lot of noise, Agent Monroe." Her stomach tightens. They know her name. "How about you hand over the package," the man says, "and maybe I'll let you walk away." She doesn't answer. The first shot comes from her, shattering the quiet. Chaos erupts. Muzzle flashes strobe in the dark, footsteps pounding across wet concrete. She moves like smoke, every shot deliberate, every step calculated. But there are too many. She grabs a smoke canister from her belt, pulls the pin, and drops it between them. White clouds billow, swallowing the scene. In the confusion, she grabs the witness's arm and bolts out the side entrance. They don't stop running until they reach the far side of the docks. The witness collapses against a crate, gasping for breath. "You have no idea who's after me," he says, voice trembling. "I'm starting to," she replies, scanning the shadows, "and I'm not letting them win." Somewhere behind them, an engine roars to life. The hunt isn't over, it's only just begun. The witness's breathing is ragged, his chest heaving as he tries to process the last few minutes. Kendra keeps scanning the docks, her mind running through every possible escape route. The sound of an engine revving somewhere in the distance is getting louder. It's no random car. They're being hunted. She crouches next to him. "What's your name?" He hesitates. "Marek. Marek Novak." "Okay, Marek," she says firmly. "Listen to me. If you want to live, you follow exactly what I say. No questions, no hesitation." His eyes dart nervously toward the direction of the sound. "They'll kill me before I make it out of this city." "They'll have to go through me first," she replies, already pulling a small tracker from her belt and attaching it discreetly under the sleeve of his hoodie. "That's just in case we get separated." The growl of the approaching vehicle is now echoing off the shipping containers, bouncing from all directions. Kendra grabs Marek by the arm and pulls him into a narrow gap between two rows of containers. The metal walls amplify their footsteps, every sound too loud in the still night. As they move deeper into the maze, the beam of a flashlight cuts through the dark ahead. Voices follow, 3 men speaking rapidly in Russian. Kendra pushes Marek behind a crate and raises her pistol, adjusting her stance. The first man rounds the corner. He doesn't even have time to shout before she drops him with a silenced shot to the leg. The second freezes, then swings his rifle up, but Kendra's already moved, 2 shots to the shoulder and he's down. The third bolts, shouting something into a radio. "Move!" she orders, grabbing Marek again. They break from the container maze into a wide-open section of the docks where forklifts sit abandoned. The rain has started again, turning the ground slick. Ahead, an old service tunnel yawns open, a black mouth leading beneath the waterfront. They dash inside, the darkness swallowing them whole. The tunnel smells of mildew and stagnant water. Their footsteps echo off the damp walls. Marek's voice is barely a whisper. "Why are they after me?" "You have something they want," Kendra replies without slowing. "Information. Something about the shipment?" He nods reluctantly. "It's not just weapons. They're smuggling encrypted drives, lists of undercover operatives, CIA, MI6, maybe more. If those names leak..." He doesn't finish the sentence. Kendra's mind races. That's why they're willing to risk this much heat. It's not about money, it's about dismantling entire networks. And if her cover is blown, she's already halfway to the top of their target list. Halfway down the tunnel, the faint hum of another engine vibrates through the walls. They're not safe here. She pushes Marek forward, picking up the pace. At the far end, they emerge into a fenced-off service yard. A rusted padlock hangs from the gate. Kendra pulls a multi-tool from her pocket and snaps it off with 2 quick twists. The gate creaks as she pushes it open. Beyond it lies the city. Grimy streets lit by flickering neon, the hum of nightlife mixing with the low growl of trouble nearby. They weave through back alleys, Kendra's senses on overdrive. Every shadow feels like a threat, every passerby a possible tale. Marek is starting to limp, his earlier adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Finally, they duck into a narrow doorway marked by a faded sign, "No vacancy." Inside, the air is thick with the smell of fried food and cigarette smoke. A tired-looking bartender barely glances up as they pass through to a back staircase. Kendra leads Marek to a small room with peeling wallpaper and a single dim lamp. She locks the door, then pulls her phone from her jacket. "Control, this is Shadow 9. I have the asset. We need exfil ASAP." Static crackles, then a distorted voice replies, "Negative Shadow 9, all safe houses in your sector are compromised. Hold position until further instructions." Her jaw tightens. Understood. She pockets the phone and turns to Marek. "We're staying here for now. Get some rest if you can." But she doesn't rest. She positions herself by the window, watching the street below. Two black sedans roll by slowly, their tinted windows reflecting the streetlights. They don't stop, but she knows it's only a matter of time. Hours pass in tense silence. Just after 3 a.m., her phone buzzes with a single encrypted message. "They found you. Move now." No time to think. She grabs Marek, shoving a small pistol into his hands. "Safety's here. Don't fire unless I say." They slip out the back, down the narrow fire escape, and into an alley that smells of trash and rain. But halfway through, movement catches her eye, two figures stepping out from the shadows ahead, and two more blocking the way behind. Kendra exhales slowly. "Stay behind me." The first man lunges forward. She sidesteps, slamming her elbow into his jaw. Marek ducks as another swings a pipe, the metal clanging off the brick wall. Kendra's knee comes up hard, dropping him, but the other two are armed with pistols now, and there's nowhere to run. One raises his weapon, only for a sharp crack to ring out from somewhere above. The man drops instantly. The second spins toward the sound, but another shot takes him down before he can react. Kendra looks up to see a shadowy figure on a rooftop, lowering a sniper rifle. A voice crackles in her earpiece. "Extraction team inbound. 2 minutes." For the first time all night, she lets out a breath. But deep down, she knows this is far from over. Whoever's pulling these strings isn't going to stop, not until they've buried the witness, the intel, and her along with it. The extraction van screeches to a halt in the middle of the alley, its side door sliding open before it fully stops. Two agents in black tactical gear motion them inside. Kendra pushes Marek forward, scanning the rooftops one last time before jumping in after him. The door slams shut and the van accelerates into the night. Inside, the hum of the engine mixes with the faint chatter of encrypted comms. The driver doesn't look back, focused entirely on navigating the narrow back streets. The agent beside him is already on the radio, relaying their position to an unknown command center. Marek is pale, gripping the pistol Kendra gave him as if it's the only thing keeping him anchored. "Are we safe now?" he asks, his voice trembling. Kendra doesn't answer right away. She's been in too many operations to believe in safe this early. Instead, she leans closer to the agent sitting opposite her. "Who authorized this pickup? My last contact said all safe houses were compromised." The agent's helmet hides his expression, but his voice is neutral. "Orders came from Langley. Direct chain." That doesn't sit right with her. Langley had been dark for the last 12 hours after a possible breach. No direct orders were supposed to come through, not unless someone high up wanted her exactly where they could see her. Her fingers twitch toward her concealed sidearm. "Where's our destination?" "Depot 12, the agent says. "Temporary holding until further exfil." Depot 12. She knows the place, a decommissioned shipping warehouse repurposed for short-term ops. Problem is, she's heard whispers it was recently flagged for a potential leak. The van takes a sharp turn, sending Marek sliding on the bench. Kendra steadies him, but her mind is already working on contingencies. If Depot 12 is compromised, stepping inside could be a death sentence for both of them. She leans back casually, pretending to adjust her seat. "Change of plan," she says suddenly. "We divert to Station Echo." The agent stiffens. "Negative. Orders are—" "That wasn't a request," Kendra cuts in, her tone like steel. "You want to explain to Langley why your asset ended up in a body bag because you followed bad intel? Be my guest." The agent hesitates, then glances at the driver. A silent exchange passes between them, and the van makes another sharp turn. 10 minutes later, they're pulling into the underground parking lot of a half-abandoned office building. Station Echo is buried 3 floors down, invisible from street level. Kendra's been here before. It's one of the last unburned nodes she trusts. The agents escort them inside, down a service elevator that groans with age. When the doors open, they're met with dim fluorescent lights and the low hum of computers. A man in plain clothes looks up from behind a desk. "Kendra?" he says, surprised. "We weren't expecting—" "That's the point," she replies, pushing Marek gently forward. "Lock this place down. We might have been followed." Within minutes, the station goes into full lockdown. Security shutters closing, comms scrambling, external lines cut. Marek sinks into a chair, rubbing his temples. Kendra steps aside with the man at the desk, a longtime contact named Harris. "We've got a leak, Harris. My pickup was authorized by Langley, supposedly, but the chain's been compromised. Someone wants him dead before dawn." Harris frowns. "You think it's internal?" "I know it is," she says flatly. "The only way they could track me from the docks to that alley was if someone fed them my route in real time." Harris exhales slowly. That narrows it down to maybe 5 people with the clearance, but 2 of them are ghosts, deep cover, no current ops. Kendra's jaw tightens. Or so they want us to think. Before Harris can respond, one of the station monitors starts flashing red, an inbound comm signal encrypted but piggybacking on a frequency only used for emergencies. Harris taps the keyboard and a voice crackles through the speaker. "Kendra, it's Director Owens. You need to bring the asset to Depot 12 immediately. That's a direct order." Kendra's eyes narrow. "Funny, I just spoke to someone claiming to be you half an hour ago, giving the same order." There's a pause on the line. "That wasn't me." The channel goes dead. Harris looks at her. "They're closing in." Kendra turns to Marek. "Time to move again." They exit through a maintenance tunnel that feeds into the subway system. The stale air is thick with dust, the sound of their footsteps swallowed by the hum of the city above. Kendra keeps Marek close, her other hand on her weapon. Halfway through the tunnel, she spots something. A small blinking light near the ceiling. She reaches up and yanks down a black device, no bigger than a matchbox. A tracker. She curses under her breath. "They tagged you at the docks." Marek's eyes widen. "So they've been following us this whole time?" "Not anymore," she says, crushing the device under her boot. But she knows it's only bought them minutes, maybe less. When they emerge into the subway, the platform is nearly empty except for a single train idling at the far end. Kendra hustles Marek aboard, choosing a seat near the rear door. As the train pulls away, she catches a reflection in the window. 2 men boarding the next car, both in dark jackets, moving with the confidence of hunters who already smell blood. She leans in close to Marek. "Next stop, we don't just get off. We disappear." The train lurches forward, its steel wheels screeching against the tracks as they plunge into the dark tunnel. Dim overhead lights flicker in the car, casting long shadows that seem to stretch and shift with every turn. Kendra keeps her head low, eyes fixed on the reflection in the smudged window. The 2 men in the next car are moving deliberately, closing the distance with each connecting passage. Marek notices her tense posture. "They're here, aren't they?" he whispers. Kendra doesn't break her stare. "Yeah, and they're not here for a conversation." She runs a quick mental calculation. 2 men, likely armed, possibly with backup waiting at the next station. Staying on the train isn't an option. She glances at the map above the doors. Next stop, Clearwater Junction. Not ideal, too open, but there's a maintenance exit she's used before, hidden behind a vending machine near the west stairwell. The PA system crackles overhead. "Next stop, Clearwater Junction. Please mind the gap." As the train begins to slow, Kendra stands, pulling Marek up with her. "Follow my lead. Don't look at them. Don't run until I tell you." The train shudders to a stop. The doors slide open with a hiss, and the rush of cooler station air greets them. They step out onto the platform, blending in with the handful of late-night commuters. Kendra resists the urge to check behind her. She can feel their pursuers already stepping off the train. They move quickly but not hurriedly, weaving through the scattered passengers toward the far end of the platform. Marek's breathing is shallow, and she can feel the tension radiating off him. When they reach the vending machine, Kendra stops abruptly, pretending to dig for coins. She angles her body to shield her hand as she reaches up and presses a barely visible latch behind the machine. With a muted click, the heavy unit swings out just enough to reveal a narrow doorway. "In," she orders, giving Marek a slight shove. They slip inside and Kendra pulls the door shut, but just as footsteps echo closer. The darkness swallows them, but she doesn't need light. She knows this path by heart. The maintenance tunnel is cramped, lined with pipes that radiate faint warmth. It smells of rust and damp concrete. They move quickly, Kendra counting turns in her head. Left, then right, then a steep incline that ends at a heavy steel hatch. She spins the wheel and pushes it open, revealing a service corridor lit by a single flickering bulb. They step through and she closes the hatch behind them. For the first time since boarding the train, Marek lets out a shaky breath. "You've done this before," he says, half statement, half question. "More times than I can count," Kendra replies. "Problem is, so have they." As if on cue, a distant clang echoes through the corridor. Someone's coming. Kendra grabs Marek's wrist. Move! They sprint down the corridor, boots pounding against the concrete. The sound of pursuit grows louder. More than 2 sets of footsteps now. Up ahead, the corridor forks. Kendra veers right, yanking Marek with her, then ducks into a side room just before the corner. Inside, the room is small and cluttered with cleaning supplies and old equipment. She pulls the door shut, plunging them into darkness. Marek starts to speak, but she presses a finger to his lips. Outside, footsteps thunder past, fading into the distance. They wait another 30 seconds before she opens the door again. Clear, for now. Back in the corridor, Kendra leads them to a grated door that opens onto a side alley. Cool night air hits them as they emerge, the hum of the city returning like a low heartbeat, but she doesn't relax. We're burned, she says. Every route they know, every safe house, they're not safe anymore. We need off-grid now. Marek frowns. Where? There's a contact. Goes by Bishop. Ex-CIA, off the books. If anyone can make us disappear, it's him. They move through the city's back streets, avoiding main roads and keeping to shadows. Kendra's hyper-aware. Every set of headlights, every open window could be a threat. By the time they reach Bishop's place, it's nearly midnight. The building is nondescript, the kind of aging apartment complex no one looks at twice. Kendra knocks twice, pauses, then knocks 3 more times. The door opens a crack, revealing a man in his 60s with sharp eyes and a neatly trimmed beard. Kendra, he says, surprised. Wasn't expecting that. No time, we need sanctuary, and we're being hunted. Bishop's gaze shifts to Marek, then back to her. Without another word, he steps aside. Inside, the apartment is a blend of old-world charm and high-tech security. Wooden bookshelves lining the walls, a bank of monitors in the corner displaying live feeds from hidden cameras around the neighborhood. Bishop locks the door and turns to them. Tell me everything. Kendra lays it out. The compromised pickups, the trackers, the orders supposedly from Langley. Bishop listens in silence, his expression growing darker by the minute. When she finishes, he leans back. You're dealing with a ghost op. Someone with clearance, resources, and no official existence. That means they can move faster than you, anticipate your routes, and erase you without leaving a trace. Marek swallows hard. So what do? Bishop's eyes narrow. We turn the tables. Make them think you're already dead. Bishop doesn't waste time. He shuts the blinds, dims the lights, and switches on a low amber lamp that casts the room in a warm, almost conspiratorial glow. Kendra knows this atmosphere well. It's how he thinks best. First, Bishop says, we create evidence, convincing evidence, that you didn't survive tonight. Marek frowns. You're talking about faking our deaths? Bishop's lips curl into a thin smile. Not talking. Doing. It's the only way to shake a ghost op off your trail. Kendra nods slowly. All right. What's the play? Bishop swivels to his bank of monitors, tapping at the keyboard with surprising speed for someone his age. Security footage from various alleys and rooftops flickers across the screens. He pulls up a grainy feed showing a narrow street 3 blocks over. There's a warehouse here, half abandoned, half rented by a salvage company. Cameras are ancient, response time from law enforcement is laughable. We stage an ambush, make it look like they caught up to you and that, well, he trails off, glancing at Marek. That we didn't make it. Marek finishes, his voice low. Kendra looks at Bishop. We'll need bodies. Bishop doesn't blink. Already thought of that. The morgue owes me a favor. Unclaimed cases. Right height, right build. Marek looks pale, but Kendra just exhales slowly. It'll work. If they believe we're dead, they'll stop hunting in the open. That gives us the space to find who's pulling the strings. Bishop leans back in his chair, studying them both. You'll need to vanish completely after the scene. No contact with anyone. No slip-ups. Once you disappear, you stay gone until we say otherwise. Kendra meets his gaze without flinching. I've done it before. Not like this, Bishop replies. 2 hours later, they're in the warehouse. The air is heavy with the smell of rust and oil. Shadows stretch long across the cracked concrete floor. Bishop's contacts delivered. 2 body bags on the ground, zipped shut. Marek looks at them for a long moment. I don't think I can. You can. Kendra cuts in, her tone sharp. This is survival. He swallows hard and nods. They work quickly, dressing the bodies in duplicates of their clothes. Bishop sprinkles traces of Kendra's perfume on one body, smears synthetic blood across both faces to blur their identities. Then comes the fire. Bishop has set a barrel in the corner, ready to ignite. The plan is simple. Lure the pursuers here, make them think they've taken down Kendra and Marek, and leave just enough behind for them to believe it. Kendra checks her weapon, then hands Marek a small comm earpiece. Stay on channel 2, only speak if you have to. They position themselves behind a stack of crates as Bishop kills the lights. Darkness swallows the warehouse, the only illumination coming from the faint orange flicker of the barrel. The first footsteps arrive within minutes. Slow, careful, predatory. Kendra can make out 3 figures entering, their movements deliberate. One kneels beside the body bags, pulling a flashlight from his belt. The beam slices through the gloom, pausing over the fake Kendra. A low whistle. Got her. The second man grunts. And the kid too. From the shadows, Kendra watches their every move. They pull out a phone, snapping photos. One of them sends a text. Moments later, the third man receives a reply and nods. They'll send cleanup. That's the cue. Bishop triggers a remote charge, and the barrel erupts in a sudden flare. Startled, the men jerk back, just long enough for Kendra and Marek to slip out the side exit. They move fast, keeping to the dark alleys until Bishop's SUV pulls up 2 blocks away. They pile in, and Bishop floors it without a word. Only when the city lights fade in the rear view. Does he speak? Congratulations. As far as they're concerned, you're dead. Marek exhales, the tension bleeding out of him. Now what? Kendra looks out the window at the blur of passing trees. Now we hunt them. By dawn, they're in a safe house miles from the city. A weather-beaten cabin tucked deep in the woods. Bishop spreads a map across the table, pins marking known sightings and incidents connected to their pursuers. This is a web, Bishop says, tapping at the map. Your ghost op is connected to multiple cities, multiple fronts. But there's a hub, a central point where everything funnels back. Kendra studies the map. Langley? Bishop shakes his head. Worse, a black site in Virginia, off the official books. Whoever's running this, that's their base. Marek leans over the map. So we go there? Kendra's eyes harden. We don't just go there, we burn it to the ground. Night falls again, and the plan takes shape. Bishop will dig up intel on the black site's defenses while Kendra and Marek prepare for infiltration. They'll need fake IDs, clean weapons, and a way past whatever biometric security the place uses. But Kendra knows one thing. This time, they're not running. And when they walk into that black site, it won't be as fugitives. It will be as hunters. The safe house is silent except for the faint hum of Bishop's laptop. His fingers fly over the keys, pulling data from places no one should be able to access. Kendra stands by the window, eyes scanning the tree line. Marek sits at the table, cleaning his weapon with methodical precision, though his hands still tremble from the night before. Bishop breaks the silence. Found it. They gather around his screen. On it is a grainy satellite image of an isolated complex deep in rural Virginia. High fences, guard towers, a single access road winding through dense forest. That's the black site? Marek asks. Bishop nods. No signage, no public records. But the vehicle logs match movements tied to your ghost op. If we get in there, we'll find the head of this operation. Kendra leans in. What's the entry point? Bishop taps the screen. Southwest perimeter. Less camera coverage. But they've got thermal drones in rotation every 6 minutes. That's our window. Marek frowns. And what about getting out? Kendra answers without hesitation. We won't need to sneak out if no one's left standing. Bishop gives her a sharp look. Careful. This place isn't just guarded. It's a spider's nest. You go in loud, you'll never make it to the core. Kendra smirks faintly. Then we go in silent. The next 24 hours are a blur of preparation. Bishop forges new IDs, government contractor credentials tied to a fake maintenance company. Kendra acquires suppressed weapons, compact enough to hide under civilian jackets. Marek memorizes the guard rotations Bishop pulled from intercepted communications. By nightfall, they're ready. The plan is simple. Infiltrate disguised as contractors, bypass security with Bishop's forged credentials, locate the operations center, and identify the handler running the ghost op. The SUV rumbles down the lonely access road just after midnight. The forest presses close on either side, shadows swallowing the faint moonlight. At the first checkpoint, a guard steps forward, flashlight sweeping across the windshield. Papers. Bishop passes him the forged IDs. The guard studies them for a long moment, then nods and waves them through. That was too easy, Marek murmurs from the back seat. Don't celebrate yet, Kendra replies. The complex looms ahead, low concrete buildings surrounded by razor wire and floodlights. The guard towers stand like silent sentinels, each one manned by soldiers in black tactical gear. They park in a side lot and step out, carrying tool bags to complete the cover. Inside, the air smells faintly of metal and antiseptic. The halls are dim, the walls painted in that lifeless gray common to secure facilities. Bishop leads the way, walking with the calm assurance of someone who belongs here. Kendra keeps her eyes moving, noting every camera, every locked door, every potential exit. They pass through 2 more security checkpoints without incident until the third. A tall guard steps forward, blocking their path. Hold up, haven't seen you before. Bishop offers a polite smile. New rotation, just here to check the wiring in the west wing. The guard's eyes narrow. ID again. Bishop hands it over, but this time the man doesn't glance at it and wave them through. He studies it, then looks up slowly. Maintenance window was last week. Kendra feels Marek tense behind her. The guard's hand drifts toward his radio. In one smooth motion, Kendra drops her tool bag, steps forward, and drives her elbow into the man's jaw. He crumples without a sound. Marek catches him before he hits the ground, dragging him into a nearby supply closet. Bishop closes the door quietly. We're on the clock now. They move faster, cutting through side corridors to avoid patrols. Bishop checks his watch. Ops Center is 2 floors down. There's a service stairwell at the end of this hall. They descend into the underbelly of the facility, where the air grows colder and the lighting harsher. Here, the walls are lined with reinforced steel doors, each marked with a code. The sound of footsteps approaches from the far end of the corridor. Kendra motions for them to press against the wall. 2 soldiers pass by, talking in low voices. Something about tonight's transport and the package being secure. She files that away. At last, they reach a heavy door labeled Operations Command. A keypad blinks red beside it. Bishop kneels, pulling a small device from his pocket. He attaches it to the keypad, and within seconds the light flashes green. The door slides open silently. Inside, the room is a hive of activity. Monitors lining the walls, each displaying feeds from various locations: airports, city streets, private residences. Operators sit at consoles, headsets crackling with encrypted chatter. At the far end, elevated above the rest, is a glass-walled office. Inside stands a man in a dark suit, speaking into a secure phone. Bishop whispers, "That's your handler." Kendra studies him. "No, that's my target." They move along the perimeter, using the shadows to avoid detection. Kendra slips into the office while Bishop and Marek keep watch outside. The man hangs up the phone and turns, and freezes when he sees her. "Kendra Voss," he says, almost amused. "I was wondering when you'd show up." She doesn't answer. She just steps forward, pulling a suppressed pistol from her jacket. "You've been running ghost ops," she says, "hunting my people. Why?" The man smiles faintly. "Because you were never supposed to come back." Her finger tightens on the trigger. And suddenly the alarms erupt. The sirens wail through the complex, a shrill, pulsing sound that rattles the glass walls of the office. Red lights begin to strobe in every corridor, casting everything in a harsh, blood-colored glow. Kendra doesn't flinch. Her pistol remains steady, her eyes locked on the man in front of her. "Guess we're out of time," he says, smirking like he's still in control. Kendra's voice is cold. "You were never in control." From the comms in her ear, Bishop's voice cuts through the noise. "Kendra, we've got incoming. 3 guards from the east corridor, more from the stairwell. We need extraction now." The man in the suit, Fletcher, as Kendra recalls from her mission files, steps casually toward his desk. "You really think you can walk out of here alive?" "Not walk," Kendra says. "Run!" She fires a single suppressed shot, shattering the security panel beside his desk. Sparks erupt, and the glass office door locks in place. Fletcher stumbles back, now trapped inside with her. Outside, Marek opens fire with his suppressed rifle, dropping the first wave of guards before they can reach the ops center floor. Bishop is already at a terminal, pulling every file he can find: vehicle logs, intercepted communications, black budget records. Kendra keeps her weapon aimed at Fletcher as she speaks into her comms. "Bishop, how long?" 60 seconds. But they've triggered a full lockdown. All exterior gates are sealed. "If we don't leave before the override hits, we're buried." Fletcher laughs under his breath. "And you'll never see daylight again. Kendra takes a step closer. Where's the package? The transport your men were talking about. His smile fades just enough to give her the answer she needs. It's here, still in the facility. Before he can recover, she grabs him by the tie, slamming him into the wall. You're going to show me where. Outside the glass office, chaos erupts. More guards pour in, the operators at the console scatter, and Bishop shouts over the gunfire, "We can't hold them much longer!" Kendra yanks Fletcher out of the office, using him as a human shield as they push toward the south corridor. Marek covers their flank, his shots precise and unrelenting. The hallways are a maze, now alive with bootsteps and shouted orders. The red strobe lights make every corner feel like an ambush waiting to happen. "Left!" Fletcher gasps as Kendra shoves him forward. She doesn't trust him, but he seems more interested in self-preservation than misleading her. They push through a reinforced door and into a dimly lit storage area. Rows of heavy crates line the walls, but in the center is a steel cage. Inside, bound to a chair, is a young woman with a gag over her mouth and fear in her eyes. Kendra steps inside, removing the gag. "CIA?" she asks. The woman nods quickly. "Field agent, Delta team, they took me 3 days ago." Bishop appears in the doorway, breathless. "We've got to move! North Tunnel now!" They cut the ropes and Marek helps the agent to her feet. Fletcher tries to edge toward the exit, but Kendra slams him against a crate. "You're coming with us!" The North Tunnel is narrow, barely lit, and lined with old maintenance piping. Bishop's forged access codes still work here, buying them precious seconds. But the sound of pursuit echoes behind them. Radio chatter, heavy boots, the metallic clink of weapons being readied. Halfway down the tunnel, they hit their first obstacle, a blast door, slowly lowering from the ceiling. "Move!" Marek shouts. They sprint, ducking under just as the door slams shut behind them, sealing off the guards. But it's a temporary win. Bishop warns, "That won't hold them more than 2 minutes. There's a secondary exit ahead." Into the tree line behind the south ridge. When they emerge, the cold night air hits them like a wave. The forest is dark, the sky moonless, but somewhere in the distance the rumble of approaching vehicles grows louder. Kendra turns to Bishop. "You pull everything?" He nods. "Enough to blow this whole thing open. Names, dates, operations. Fletcher's network is cooked." The rescued agent steps forward, her voice hoarse. "If those files are legit, you just exposed one of the deepest black ops divisions in the country." Fletcher glares at her, then at Kendra. "You think you've won? You don't know who you're up against." Kendra holsters her weapon, eyes cold. "I know exactly who I'm up against, and I just dragged him out of his own fortress." Bishop's SUV bursts through the undergrowth, tires spitting mud. They pile in, Kendra shoving Fletcher into the back beside Marek, the rescued agent in the front. As they speed away, headlights cutting through the trees, Kendra takes one last look at the dark silhouette of the facility behind them. The alarms are still wailing, but they're fading into the distance. Bishop glances at her in the rearview mirror. "Where to now?" Kendra answers without hesitation. "Somewhere safe. Then we burn every name on that list." The SUV roars down the back road, mud spraying from the tires as Bishop pushes the engine harder than it was ever meant to go. Inside, the tension is thick. Fletcher sits in the back seat, hands zip-tied, his jaw clenched in quiet fury. Marek keeps a steady grip on his rifle, eyes locked on their prisoner. Kendra doesn't take her eyes off the tree line ahead. "We can't take him to a safe house yet," she says. "They'll be looking for us within minutes." Bishop nods. "Agreed. But we need to get these files off-site, now." From the front passenger seat, the rescued agent, still pale from her captivity, speaks up. "You have a sat link?" "Encrypted," Bishop replies, pulling a small black case from under his seat. Inside is a ruggedized laptop, already connected to a compact satellite uplink. He slides it onto her lap. "You know what to do." She begins working fast, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "We'll route the data through multiple relays, blind them with false pings, then push it to our network drop. From there, it'll hit every major news outlet and government oversight committee simultaneously." Fletcher lets out a low, bitter laugh. "You're playing with fire. You think dumping classified operations into the public sphere will make you heroes? You'll start a war." Kendra turns to face him. "No, you already started it. We're just making sure the world knows." 10 miles down the road, Bishop veers off onto a barely visible dirt path. Branches scrape against the SUV as they wind deeper into the forest, finally coming to a stop near an abandoned ranger station. It's isolated, surrounded by nothing but dense woods and the faint sound of a river somewhere beyond. They pile out quickly, Marek hauling Fletcher by the arm while Kendra sweeps the area. Inside the ranger station, dust hangs in the air, the faint smell of mold clinging to the wooden walls, but it's secure, at least for the moment. The rescued agent sets up the sat link on an old desk. "I'll need 5 minutes to finish the upload," she says. "You've got 3, Kendra replies. While the agent works, Kendra pulls Marek aside. "Once this goes live, every asset tied to Fletcher will either vanish or come hunting for us. We need an exit strategy." Marek keeps his voice low. "I know a strip outside Dalton, about 20 clicks west. We can lift out from there if Bishop's got a contact with a bird." "I've got one," Bishop says from across the room without looking up. "But it's going to cost us. Favor level, not cash." "Worth it," Kendra says. Suddenly, Fletcher speaks up, his tone almost casual. "You really think you can trust the people you're sending this to? Oversight committees? Newsrooms? Half of them are already bought and paid for." Kendra ignores him, but Bishop glances at her, his expression saying what they both know. Fletcher isn't entirely wrong. The rescued agent's voice cuts through the tension. "Uploads live, packet 1 of 3 sent. Once the rest goes, there's no pulling it back." Kendra nods. "Send it all." The first packet hits the network within seconds. Somewhere out there, encrypted drives are unlocking, and journalists, intelligence analysts, and a handful of high-level officials are staring at the beginnings of a scandal that will shake the Capitol. But before the second packet can finish, a sudden crackle comes from Bishop's comms. Static, then a voice. "Target located, engage." Bishop's eyes widen. "They're here!" Marek moves instantly, pulling Fletcher to the floor and keeping him covered. Kendra swings toward the door just as it bursts inward. 3 armed men in tactical gear flood the room. She drops the first with a double tap to the chest, the second with a shot to the thigh that sends him crashing into the desk. The third dives behind a cabinet, returning fire. Bishop yanks the sat-link cable free, tucking the laptop under his arm. "We've got 2 packets out. Last one's stuck in the buffer." "Forget it," Kendra shouts. "We move now." The rescued agent grabs her sidearm and covers their retreat as they push Fletcher through the back door, into the trees. The forest is alive with the sound of pursuit. Boots pounding, branches snapping, radios hissing. They sprint toward the faint roar of the river. When they reach the bank, Bishop points downstream. There's an old service bridge half a mile, steel structure, no cameras. We cross there, lose them in the quarry beyond. The moonlight glints off the rushing water as they follow the bank, every step a gamble on the uneven ground. Gunfire cracks behind them, bullets chewing into the dirt and splintering bark. At the bridge, they find it half collapsed, but still passable. Marek goes first with Fletcher, shoving the prisoner ahead. The rescued agent follows, then Bishop with the laptop. Kendra crosses last, firing bursts back into the tree line to keep their pursuers pinned. On the other side, they disappear into the abandoned quarry. Rusted machinery towers overhead, the ground littered with debris. They duck into the shadows of a derelict conveyor tower, breathing hard. Bishop checks the laptop. 2/3 of the data's out. Even if we go down, it's enough to blow the operation open. Kendra scans the darkness, listening for any sound of pursuit. "Not good enough. We finish it. Tonight." The rescued agent meets her gaze. "Then we'll need another uplink. And I know where we can get one, but it's in enemy territory." Kendra's eyes narrow. "Then that's where we're going." The quarry is silent now, but Kendra knows it won't last. The men chasing them aren't the type to give up. Somewhere beyond the dark horizon, reinforcements are moving, trackers are scanning, and Fletcher's allies are tightening the noose. The rescued agent, whose name they still haven't spoken aloud, kneels beside Bishop, pointing at the laptop screen. "There's a comms relay here," she says, tapping a blinking dot on a grainy satellite image. "Abandoned on paper, but I've used it before. If we can reach it, we can push the last packet straight to the network, bypassing their interference." Bishop studies the map. "That's 30 clicks east, straight through Fletcher's backyard." Kendra glances at Fletcher, who sits zip-tied against a rusted steel support beam. "Good. He can show us the safe path, unless he wants to make it harder on himself." Fletcher smirks, even with the bruise blooming on his cheek. "You're already dead. You just don't know it yet." Marek hauls him to his feet. "Then I guess you'll be our guide to the afterlife." They move fast, sticking to the shadows, every sound magnified in the empty quarry. The night air is sharp, carrying the smell of rain and metal. By the time they leave the quarry and cut through the tree line, the first distant rumble of thunder rolls across the sky. The forest grows thicker, the ground uneven. Twice they stop to listen. Footsteps? No, just the wind through the branches. But Kendra's instincts scream at her. They're not alone. An hour in, they reach a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Beyond it, dim floodlights cast pools of light over cracked asphalt and a scattering of corrugated steel warehouses. The place looks deserted, but Kendra knows better. "This is the edge of his territory," the rescued agent whispers. "Once we cross, every shadow could be a scope." Bishop pulls a pair of bolt cutters from his pack, snapping the fence with a sharp metallic clink. Marek shoves Fletcher through first, then follows with the rest of the team. They're halfway across the yard when the first spotlight snaps on. A voice barks over a loudspeaker. "Drop your weapons and get on the ground!" "Move!" Kendra shouts, and they sprint for the nearest warehouse as bullets start chipping away at the asphalt. The door is chained, but Marek's boot smashes it open. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of oil and rust. They weave between stacks of old machinery, heading for the far side. But before they reach the exit, figures emerge from the shadows. 4 men in dark tactical gear, rifles raised. "End of the line," one of them says. Fletcher chuckles. "Told you." Kendra's eyes flick to Bishop. He gives a barely perceptible nod. On cue, she drops into a crouch as Bishop pulls a flashbang from his vest. The deafening crack and burst of white light send the men staggering, clutching at their helmets. Marek takes 2 down with clean shots. Kendra disarms a third, using his own rifle to slam him against a stack of crates. The last man tries to flee, but Bishop's sidearm drops him before he reaches the door. "Move!" Kendra shouts again, and they push through the far exit, emerging into a narrow alley between warehouses. The comms relay isn't far now, just 2 blocks east. But as they round the corner, they see it. A squat concrete building with a weathered satellite dish on the roof. Floodlights hum overhead, and 2 guards stand at the entrance. "We'll never get close without drawing fire," Marek mutters. "We don't need to," the rescued agent says, pulling a small device from her jacket. "Signal repeater. If we get within 20 meters, I can bounce the upload through their uplink without even setting foot inside." "Then let's make it quick," Kendra replies. They split. Bishop and the rescued agent circling left, Kendra and Marek flanking right with Fletcher in tow. The rain starts to fall in thin, cold needles, masking their movement. From their position behind a stack of crates, Kendra watches the guards. One lights a cigarette, the other shifts his rifle and glances toward the street. She raises her hand, signaling Bishop. The repeater hums to life in the agent's hands. Lights flash green. "We're in range," she whispers. "Uploading now." But just as the final packet begins to transfer, Fletcher makes his move. With a sudden twist, he wrenches free of Marek's grip and lunges toward the guards, shouting, "They're here! On the flank!" The yard explodes into chaos. The guards swing their rifles toward the crates as more floodlights snap on, bathing the alley in harsh white light. Bishop shouts, "Cover her!" as the rescued agent hunches over the repeater, fingers flying to keep the connection alive. Kendra fires, dropping 1 guard instantly. Marek tackles Fletcher back to the ground, driving his knee into the prisoner's spine. "You're not going anywhere!" The second guard manages to return fire, a round grazing Kendra's arm, but she doesn't flinch. She keeps firing until he's down. "Upload complete," the rescued agent calls out. "It's live, every file, every name, every operation. They can't bury it now." "Then let's vanish," Kendra says, grabbing the repeater as they pull back into the shadows. In the distance, sirens wail. The storm breaks overhead, sheets of rain drenching the yard as they disappear into the night. Still hunted, but now holding the one weapon their enemies can't take back, the truth. By the time they reach the safe house, the storm outside has turned into a relentless downpour. Rain lashes against the boarded windows, and the roof groans under the weight of the wind. Inside, the air is thick with the hum of old fluorescent lights and the faint smell of damp wood. Kendra locks the door behind them, then yanks the curtain shut. The rescued agent, who still hasn't offered a name, sets the repeater on the table, its indicator lights still blinking from the completed upload. "It's done," she says quietly. "The files are in the network. Headquarters will know within the hour." Bishop checks his watch. If they don't already, Fletcher's people will be scrambling to pull favors, twist arms, try to bury this before it spreads. Kendra pulls off her jacket, wincing as the graze on her arm starts to sting now that the adrenaline is wearing off. Marek drops Fletcher into a chair, zip ties digging into his wrists. Fletcher sits with that same smug half-smile, rainwater dripping from his hair. "You think a few files on the internet will change anything?" Fletcher says, his voice low but steady. "You've got no idea how deep this runs." "Then maybe you'll enlighten us," Kendra replies, stepping close enough that he can see the controlled fury in her eyes. Fletcher doesn't answer. He just tilts his head, listening. A faint sound rises above the storm, the low, distant thump of rotor blades. Bishop's eyes snap to the window. "We've got company." The sound grows louder. A helicopter sweeps over the safe house, its searchlight cutting through sheets of rain. Kendra signals the others. "Basement, now!" They haul Fletcher to his feet and push through a narrow hallway into a set of stairs leading down to a concrete cellar. The air is colder here, damp with the smell of earth. Bishop kills the single bulb, plunging them into darkness. Above them, the front door crashes open. Heavy boots pound across the floor. Voices call out, sharp, commanding. The sound of furniture being overturned, footsteps moving from room to room. Kendra grips her sidearm, every muscle tense. She can picture the sweep teams above, rifles up, clearing corners. They're moving fast, which means they're not here to talk. One of the boots hits the top step. Kendra raises her weapon, ready to fire, but Bishop's hand closes over hers. He shakes his head, his expression calm but urgent. The boot steps retreat. Another voice says, "Nothing. Basement sealed." A pause, then the sound of the helicopter again, receding into the distance. They wait in silence until the voices are gone and the storm is the only sound left. Kendra exhales slowly. That was too close. The rescued agent speaks for the first time in nearly an hour. They won't stop now. The moment those files went live, every person named in them became desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. They regroup upstairs. The safe house is a wreck, drawers pulled out, cupboards emptied, floorboards cracked under the weight of the search. Marek finds a radio transmitter hidden behind a false panel in the kitchen wall. "They tagged this place long before we got here," he says. "We can't stay." "Agreed," Bishop replies. "But we can't just keep running blind. We need to know what's in motion." The rescued agent taps the repeater, still blinking faintly. "If I can get to a secure terminal, I can pull live feeds from the agency's darknet servers, see who's moving where, and maybe even anticipate the next strike." "Then we move now," Kendra says, grabbing her jacket again. Storm or not, they head out into the rain, the streets slick and empty. Lightning flashes overhead, briefly illuminating the crumbling facades of old industrial buildings. Their destination is an old railway signal station 3 miles away, long abandoned but still wired into the kind of infrastructure only the agency's deepest operatives know about. The trek is grueling. Water pools in the cracked asphalt, soaking their boots. The wind cuts through their clothing, carrying the metallic tang of the nearby river. Twice they hear vehicles in the distance, engines revving, tires hissing over wet pavement, but they slip into alleys or doorways until the sounds fade. When they finally reach the station, the building looms out of the rain like a shadow. Windows are boarded, doors chained. Marek cuts the lock and they slip inside. The air is stale and cold. A single dusty terminal sits against the far wall, surrounded by metal filing cabinets and stacks of forgotten equipment. The rescued agent moves straight to it, fingers flying over the keyboard as the ancient screen flickers to life. "Here we go," she murmurs, routing through ghost relays, masking the signature. Bishop stands watch at the door, while Kendra scans the room for anything out of place. Fletcher sits in the corner, still tied, still silent, his eyes flicking between them with unreadable calculation. The rescued agent's face tightens as data begins scrolling down the screen. They've already flagged the leak. Every name on that list is either on the move or in hiding. And there's chatter. Something about a contingency protocol. "What kind of protocol?" Kendra asks. The agent hesitates. "Purge operations, they're cleaning house. Anyone who might testify, anyone connected to the files, they're eliminating them. Quietly, efficiently." Marek swears under his breath. "So they're going to start killing witnesses before the public even knows the truth." Bishop glances back at Fletcher. "Guessing you know where they'll start." Fletcher says nothing, but the faint tightening of his jaw is answer enough. "We need to move before they do," Kendra says. "Every second we wait, someone on that list dies." The rescued agent nods. I can narrow the first targets to a few locations, but we'll have to split up to cover them in time. That's a risk, Bishop says. We'll be easier to pick off. It's a bigger risk if we stay together and save no one, Kendra replies. Her voice leaves no room for argument. Outside, the storm begins to ease, but the wind still howls through the broken rafters. They all know the next steps will take them deeper into danger than ever before. The storm has thinned to a steady drizzle by the time they leave the signal station, but the air feels heavier, charged with something far worse than lightning. The rescued agent, finally giving her name as Reyes, scrolls through the last set of coordinates before shutting down the terminal. They'll move on the first target within the hour, Reyes says, her tone clipped and cold. She's a mid-level analyst who helped decrypt parts of the file. She's in a safe apartment downtown. Or she was. Kendra doesn't need more explanation. Marek and I will take her. Bishop, you and Reyes go for the second name. What about him? Marek jerks his head toward Fletcher, still zip-tied and glaring from the corner. We're taking him, Kendra says. Too many people want him dead, and he's still our best shot at predicting their moves. They split outside, Bishop and Reyes vanishing into the rain toward the river. Kendra and Marek head for the analyst's apartment, Fletcher pushed between them. The streets are still empty, but the silence feels staged, like the city is holding its breath. They reach the building, a narrow brick tower wedged between two gutted warehouses. The front door is locked, but Marek picks it in seconds. Inside, the stairwell smells of mold and old paint. Kendra moves first, every sense tuned. Floor 3, apartment 3B. She knocks softly, their code phrase ready on her tongue. But no one answers. She knocks again. Still nothing. The silence behind the door feels wrong. Too still, too heavy. Marek steps forward, tools in hand, but Kendra stops him. She crouches, pressing her ear to the wood. A faint scrape. Then, a muffled thud. She signals Marek. Breach. The door bursts inward, hinges cracking. Inside, the analyst lies bound to a chair, a strip of duct tape over her mouth. Her eyes are wide, locked on the shadow moving toward the kitchen window. Kendra fires before she even thinks. The figure stumbles, crashes into the counter, then scrambles out the open window. Marek! She shouts, rushing to the analyst. He's already at the window, leaning out into the rain-slick fire escape, but the runner is gone, swallowed by the city's maze. Kendra rips the tape from the analyst's mouth. Are you hurt? The woman shakes her head, though her breathing is ragged. They were going to kill me. Said it had to look like a robbery. Kendra cuts her free, scanning the room. The place has been tossed, drawers open, papers scattered, but the real damage is the fear in the woman's eyes. They knew your name, your schedule, where you'd be, Kendra says. That means they've got a mole feeding them live intel. Fletcher laughs from the doorway, the sound harsh in the small space. You think you can plug every leak? You can't. This system, my system, runs on leaks. Kendra turns on him, stepping so close he can feel the heat of her anger. Keep talking, and I'll see how far you bounce off that fire escape. Fletcher smirks, but he stays quiet. They move fast, hustling the analyst down the stairs. Outside, Marek scans the street, but something has shifted. The air is wrong again. A black SUV idles at the corner, its tinted windows hiding the occupants. Another turns onto the street from the opposite end. They boxed us in, Marek mutters. Kendra shoves Fletcher toward the alley. Move! Gunfire erupts, bullets sparking off brick. The analyst screams but keeps running, Marek shielding her with his body. Kendra returns fire, forcing the shooters to duck behind their doors. They dart through the alley, puddles splashing underfoot, rain mixing with the acrid smell of gunpowder. Ahead, the alley splits. Kendra points right. Marek goes left with the analyst, Fletcher stumbling behind Kendra. They regroup 2 blocks over, lungs burning. The SUVs are gone, but the distant wail of sirens says they won't be alone for long. The analyst clings to Marek, still shaking. They'll come again, she says. They won't stop until They'll have to go through us first, Kendra says, her voice flat but steady. Marek glances around. We can't take her back to the station. If it's already burned, they'll find her. Kendra nods. There's another place, off the books, but it's a long shot. As they move, Fletcher starts talking again, his tone almost casual. You're not saving her. You're just delaying the inevitable. The people I worked with, they don't miss twice. Maybe not, Kendra says without looking at him, but they're about to learn we don't either. They reach an abandoned printing factory near the edge of the district, its massive presses long rusted into silence. Inside, the air is cold. the darkness broken only by thin beams of moonlight through the cracked roof. Marek sets the analyst down on an old couch while Kendra checks the perimeter. No movement, no heat signatures. For now, they're clear. Kendra crouches in front of the analyst. You're going to stay here with Marek while I find Bishop and Reyes. They'll bring you somewhere safer. The woman's voice trembles. What if they find me first? They won't, Kendra says, locking eyes with her, because I won't let them. Outside, the rain has finally stopped, but the city feels no less dangerous. Somewhere out there, the purge continues, and every second brings them closer to losing more people on that list. Kendra sets her jaw. The next move has to count. Kendra slips into the wet streets, the faint glow of distant streetlights painting her path in fractured amber. Her comms are dead, jammed or cut, but she knows Bishop's last route. If she moves fast, she can intercept him before the network's hit squad closes in. Every block feels watched. The rooftops are too quiet, the shadows too still. Kendra keeps her pace steady, resisting the urge to run. Running attracts predators, and right now she needs to look like prey that bites back. 2 blocks in, she spots fresh tire tracks cutting through a puddle, still rippling. She crouches, fingertips brushing the water's surface. Warm, the engine that made them past less than 2 minutes ago. She follows the trail, hugging the walls, until she hears the faint murmur of voices ahead. A narrow alley opens to a service courtyard, the scent of diesel and gun oil hanging in the air. 2 men stand by a dark van, both in plain clothes but with the rigid posture of trained operators. They're guarding something, or someone. Kendra slips behind a dumpster listening. The girl's on her way, one says. They'll grab her at the corner and bring her here. Bishop? Already in position, Reyes too. They just don't know they're walking into it. Kendra's pulse kicks. This isn't a random intercept. The enemy knows Bishop and Reyes' route. They're going to take them alive, which means extraction to somewhere far worse than a kill zone. She has minutes to turn this around. She creeps back into the shadows, drawing her suppressed sidearm. One clean headshot could drop the closer guard, but the other would have time to radio in. Too risky. Instead, she pulls a coin from her pocket, a battered silver dollar worn smooth from years of habit. She flicks it into the far corner of the yard. The clang is sharp in the night air. Both guards turn toward the sound. Kendra moves. 3 steps, 2 shots, 1 to each man's thigh, low enough to avoid killing, but high enough to take them out of the fight. They go down hard, weapons clattering. Tell me where they are, Kendra hisses, stepping on the nearer man's chest. He grits his teeth. You're already too late. She knocks him out cold with the butt of her pistol and turns to the van. The back doors open with a groan, revealing nothing but empty restraints bolted to the floor. This was a holding point, not the main grab site, which means Bishop and Reyes are still walking straight into the net. Kendra sprints, cutting through back alleys to avoid the main streets. Her boots splash through puddles, each step a calculated gamble between speed and noise. At the next intersection, she spots them, Bishop and Reyes, moving casually, unaware of the 2 figures trailing them from half a block back. Kendra doesn't shout. She doesn't have to. She breaks into a run, angling to intercept the tails before they can make a move. One of them sees her coming and reaches inside his jacket. Too slow. Kendra tackles him into a doorway, driving her knee into his ribs. The second tail whirls toward her, but Bishop is already moving. One swift elbow to the jaw and the man crumples. What the hell, Kendra? Bishop demands. You were seconds from being boxed, she says, scanning the street. We need to move, now. Reyes' eyes narrow. How do they know our exact location? Kendra doesn't answer. Saying it out loud makes it too real. The mole theory isn't just a theory anymore. They cut south toward the river, Bishop leading this time. But the city seems to fold against them, streets narrowing, traffic patterns shifting, strangers lingering just long enough to feel wrong. At the base of a railway overpass, they find the way forward blocked by 2 unmarked SUVs, engines idling. Back, Bishop says, but as they turn, more figures step from the shadows, blocking the retreat. 8 in total, all armed. The lead man, tall with a shaved head, steps forward. Weapons down, hands up. No insignia, no badges. Just that cold confidence of people who believe the law bends for them. Kendra keeps her pistol low, angled toward the wet pavement. You don't want this fight. Shaved head smiles. Lady, I've been wanting this fight all night. The first shot echoes like a hammer on steel. Bishop dives for cover, dragging Reyes with him. Kendra fires back, her shots precise, each one buying another second. Bishop's return fire drops one of the gunmen, but the rest press forward, pinning them against the underpass wall. "This is a funnel!" Reyes shouts over the gunfire. "They want us here!" Kendra scans the area, then spots it. A rusted maintenance hatch 10 feet up the wall, half hidden by ivy. She holsters her weapon, leaps, catches the bottom rung of the access ladder, and hauls herself up. "Go!" she shouts down. "Bishop, you first with Reyes!" Bullets spark off the metal as Bishop shoves Reyes upward. Kendra covers them, firing until her magazine runs dry, then swapping without missing a beat. The last thing she sees before she climbs is shaved head, grinning through the smoke. "Run all you want. We own the exits." Kendra doesn't answer. She just keeps climbing, the sound of the city's hunt echoing below. By the time they reach the service tunnel above, all three are breathing hard. The space is narrow, the air thick with the smell of rust and damp concrete. "We're not safe yet," Kendra says, glancing back down the hatch. "They'll track us here in minutes." Bishop wipes rain from his face. "Then we make minutes feel like hours." Somewhere far below, a door slams open. The hunt has found their trail. And Kendra knows this isn't just survival anymore. This is the moment they decide whether the mission ends in the dark or burns through to the light. The tunnel stretches ahead, a narrow vein of concrete winding deeper beneath the city. Rusted pipes run along the ceiling, dripping cold water that splashes against the filthy floor. Every step echoes, a reminder that sound travels far down here and that their pursuers will hear it. Kendra moves first, her weapon raised, flashlight beams slicing through the darkness. Behind her, Bishop supports Reyes, whose ankle is swelling from a bad landing during the climb. The pain is obvious in his face, but he doesn't complain. "We can't outpace them with Reyes like this," Bishop mutters. Kendra doesn't slow. "Then we change the pace." She stops at a junction where the tunnel splits into three. Old maintenance signs hang from chains overhead, the paint so faded it's unreadable. Kendra scans each path quickly, mapping in her head. "The left branch loops back toward the river," she says. "Too open. Middle one goes under the train depot. Might be worse. Right's the old utility run. Dead end, unless you know the hatch." Bishop frowns. "You know the hatch?" Kendra's eyes flick toward him. "I put it there." No more explanation. She takes the right path, her pace faster now. Behind them, the faint clatter of boots grows louder. The pursuers aren't trying to be quiet anymore. That means they've narrowed the gap. Reyes glances back, his breathing sharp. "They're hurting us." "Let them," Kendra says. "They think they're closing in. That's when they make mistakes." The tunnel bends sharply, opening into a wider chamber where old cables snake along the walls like vines. Kendra kneels beside a rusted panel, prying it open with a flick knife. Inside, a bundle of wires waits, exactly where she left them years ago. She pulls a small black device from her jacket, snaps 2 leads onto the wires, and turns a dial. "What is that?" Bishop asks. "A reminder," Kendra says. "For anyone who thinks a straight chase is their advantage." A faint red light begins to pulse inside the panel. She closes it, stands, and waves them forward. They're 20 meters from the hidden hatch when the first pursuer rounds the bend. Kendra fires twice, not to hit, but to force him into cover. "Go, Bishop!" Bishop hoists Reyes up the hatch ladder, shoving him through the narrow opening into darkness above. Kendra covers their retreat, counting the footsteps. 6, maybe 7 pursuers, too many to hold off for long. The red light inside the panel blinks faster. Kendra grabs the ladder and climbs just as the first pursuer charges into the chamber. His eyes flick toward the panel, but too late. A deafening concussive blast rocks the tunnel, the shockwave knocking dust from the ceiling and plunging everything into momentary blackness. The device wasn't lethal. It was a shaped charge meant to collapse part of the tunnel and flood it with debris. But the effect is enough. The chase below stops cold. Kendra pulls herself into the hidden space above. It's tighter than she remembers, a maintenance crawlway barely wide enough for 2 people. Reyes sits against the wall, clutching his ankle, while Bishop scans the darkness ahead with his pistol. "Where does this lead?" Bishop asks. "Old telecom hub," Kendra says. "If it's still abandoned, we can regroup there. If not..." She doesn't finish the sentence. They move slowly, the crawlway forcing them into single file. The air smells of mold and stale electricity. Each creak of the metal beneath their knees is another reminder that stealth is only partial here. Halfway through, Kendra freezes. She hears it. Faint, deliberate scraping ahead. Someone's in the crawlway. She raises a hand, signaling Bishop to halt. The noise stops, replaced by a low, deliberate voice. "You think you can run forever, Agent?" The word hits like a spike. They know who she is. Kendra's grip tightens on her pistol. "Step aside," she calls into the darkness. A chuckle echoes back. "You should have stayed out of this city. Now you're just part of the package." Bishop leans in close. "Sounds like one man. Or one man with the rest waiting behind him," Kendra mutters. The scraping starts again. Closer now. Kendra shifts, bracing against the crawlway wall. When the shadow finally emerges from the darkness ahead, she doesn't hesitate. Her boot slams forward, catching the figure under the chin. He drops backward with a grunt, weapon clattering away. Kendra surges forward, grabbing his collar and dragging him into the narrow space. The man's eyes are wide, pupils blown. "How many?" she demands. He spits blood, grinning through split lips. "Enough!" She knocks him out cold, shoving his body to one side so they can pass. The crawlway opens into a dusty telecom room, its walls lined with dead equipment. They sweep the space quickly, empty. Reyes sinks into a corner, sweat beading on his forehead. "We can't keep this up. They're going to have the whole city grid on us." "They already do," Kendra says, scanning the floor. She spots faint footprints in the dust, fresh ones. Bishop sees them too. We're not alone. Somewhere deeper in the room, a floorboard creaks. Kendra raises her weapon, signaling Bishop toward the sound. In the far corner, a shadow moves, not away, but toward them. A tall figure steps into the dim light, hands raised. "Easy, I'm on your side." Kendra doesn't lower her weapon. "Prove it." The man reaches slowly into his jacket and pulls out a thin, weathered badge. "CIA, Operations Division. Langley sent me to find you," he says. "But we're out of time. They know you're here, and they've locked every exit. If you want to live, you'll have to follow me." Bishop glances at Kendra. "Trap?" "Maybe," she says, eyes never leaving the man's face. The sound of boots slamming against metal echoes from the crawlway behind them. The pursuers are coming again. The man's voice is calm, urgent. "Decide now." Kendra lowers her pistol just enough to nod. "Lead the way." As they disappear into another shadowed passage, the weight of the city closes in around them. Every wall, every corridor, a reminder that the real fight hasn't even started yet. The new passage is even narrower, lined with corroded steel panels that scrape against their shoulders as they move. The stranger leads the way, his flashlight beam darting between rusted support beams and half-rotted floorboards. Every step feels like it could give way, plunging them into some unseen pit below. Kendra keeps her pistol trained on his back. She doesn't care if he's flashing a CIA badge. Badges can be stolen and agents can be turned. Bishop stays close to Reyes, whose limp is worsening. The sound of pursuit from the crawlway behind them has faded, but they all know it's temporary. "You still haven't told me your name," Kendra says, voice low but sharp. "Call me Carter," the man replies without looking back. "And save your questions. We're almost at the service drop." The words mean nothing to Bishop. "Service drop?" "A forgotten access point to the old transit network," Carter says. "Built during the Cold War. It was supposed to move sensitive material through the city without anyone noticing. Never decommissioned, just buried under bureaucracy." Kendra narrows her eyes. "You expect me to believe you just happened to be here, waiting for us?" Carter's beam flickers over his shoulder, catching her face for half a second. "Not waiting. Hunting. You weren't the only one tracking this operation." They reach a sealed hatch at the end of the passage. Carter kneels, pulling a flat device from his jacket and pressing it against the old locking mechanism. The machine hums softly, lights cycling through green and amber until the latch clicks open. The hatch groans as he pushes it upward, revealing a shaft lined with ancient wooden planks. A ladder descends into black water. Reyes winces at the sight. "Tell me we're not going down there." "We are," Carter says simply. "It's the only way to shake them." The smell hits them first, stagnant, oily, with an undercurrent of rust. Bishop climbs down first, his boots splashing into knee-deep water that ripples into the darkness. He sweeps his light across the surface, revealing the jagged outlines of half-sunken crates and twisted metal debris. Kendra lowers Reyes into his arms, then follows, keeping her weapon dry. Carter seals the hatch behind them, plunging the shaft into silence. "This water connects to the maintenance arteries under the city," Carter explains. "Follow it long enough and you'll come out near the rail yard." Kendra doesn't miss the way he says you instead of we. They move slowly through the flooded tunnel, each step splashing softly. Above them, the sound of faint rumbling suggests trains or something heavier moving across the city. Bishop leans close to Kendra. "I don't trust him." "Neither do I," she whispers back. "But if he's telling the truth, this is our only chance." Carter stops suddenly, holding up a hand. In the distance, faint light flickers against the tunnel walls, accompanied by the muffled murmur of voices. He gestures for them to press against the wall, sinking deeper into the shadows. Two figures wade past in the water, their silhouettes barely illuminated by handheld lamps. The glint of rifles is unmistakable. Kendra counts their steps, noting their formation. They're disciplined, too disciplined for random street muscle. She mouths the words to Bishop, "Not cops." The men pass without seeing them, but Carter doesn't move until the light is gone. "That was Delta Gray," he says quietly. "Private military. They've been running contracts off the books for years. If they're here, it means your mission just got bigger." "My mission?" Kendra says sharply. Carter meets her gaze. "You're not the only one after the intel drop, but you're the only one with the authority to bury it for good." Reyes coughs, the sound echoing uncomfortably. "I think we should be talking about what's in that drop, because right now I feel like the only one who doesn't know." Kendra's expression doesn't change. "Need to know, Reyes." He shakes his head, muttering something under his breath. They keep moving until the tunnel widens into a circular chamber with 4 branching exits. Carter stops, scanning each one like he's reading an invisible map. "This way," he says, pointing to the second arch. Kendra steps closer to Bishop, voice low. "If he's leading us into a trap, you take Reyes and double back. I'll deal with Carter." Bishop nods, but his eyes remain fixed on the shadows above the arches. Something about this chamber feels wrong. As they enter the second passage, a sudden metallic clang echoes behind them, like a gate slamming shut. Kendra spins, weapon raised. From the darkness of the chamber, armed figures emerge one by one, their rifles trained on the group. At the front is a tall man with a scar running from his temple to his jaw. His voice is calm, almost cordial. "Agent Cole," he says, using Kendra's real name. "You've made this harder than it needed to be." Kendra's heart rate doesn't change, but her mind races. If he knows her name, he knows everything. "Let them go," she says evenly. "This is between you and me." The man chuckles. "That's where you're wrong. This is about all of you." Carter steps slightly aside, and for a split second, Kendra thinks he's about to switch sides. But instead, he throws a small object at the ground, metallic, round, hissing. "Flash!" he yells. The chamber erupts in white light and concussive sound. Kendra closes her eyes, pivots toward the nearest exit, and fires 2 shots into the confusion. Bishop grabs Reyes, dragging him through the chaos. Carter takes point, firing in controlled bursts as they break into another tunnel. The sound of pursuit follows almost immediately, boots slamming through water. Kendra shoves Bishop forward. "Keep moving! Don't stop!" They burst out of the tunnel into an enormous underground hall lined with rusting train cars. Tracks stretch into darkness, some submerged, others warped from decades of neglect. Carter sprints toward one of the cars, yanking the door open. "In here!" They pile inside, slamming the door shut just as a burst of gunfire shreds the metal siding. Sparks rain down in the gloom. Kendra drops into a crouch, breathing hard. "This isn't over," Carter nods grimly. "No, it's just starting." The inside of the old train car smells of rust and mildew. Faint light filters through cracks in the corroded metal, striping the interior with slivers of gold and shadow. Bishop lowers Reyes into a torn seat while Kendra peers through a narrow slit in the siding, scanning for movement outside. The tunnel beyond is silent for the moment, but silence here is never safe. It's a pause before the next strike. Carter moves quickly, rummaging through a locked equipment cabinet at the far end of the car. He pulls out a weathered duffel and tosses it onto a seat. The zipper opens with a dry rasp, revealing spare magazines, an ancient radio, and a folded map covered in faded ink. "This train," Carter says, his voice low but urgent, "was part of the Cold War underground. It hasn't moved in 30 years, but the power lines are still live, at least in sections." Kendra doesn't look away from the slit. "And why is that important right now?" Carter's hands are already working a panel loose on the wall. "Because if we can get it running, it'll take us straight under the rail yard. From there, we disappear." Outside, faint echoes ripple through the tunnel, metal on stone, then the unmistakable sound of boots hitting water. "They're coming," Bishop warns, tightening his grip on his rifle. Reyes forces a shaky smile. "Maybe they'll get lost in the dark." "No," Kendra says. "They know exactly where we are." Carter slams the panel shut and drops into the operator's seat. He flips a series of ancient switches, and the lights inside the train flicker weakly, buzzing with tired electricity. Somewhere deep in the car's belly, a low hum starts to build. The first shots hit the car like a drumbeat, punching holes in the thin siding. Bishop ducks, dragging Reyes lower into cover. Kendra moves to the doorway, firing short, precise bursts into the tunnel. Sparks dance across the wet stone as the enemy answers with suppressive fire. "We can't sit here!" she shouts over the gunfire. Carter yanks down a lever, and with a groaning protest, the wheels begin to turn. "We're not!" The train lurches forward, scraping against rails warped by decades of neglect. Every joint in the car groans like it might give out at any second, but momentum is building. Gunmen break into the tunnel, their lights sweeping wildly. One leaps onto the back of the train, gripping the rusted ladder with one hand while aiming his rifle with the other. Bishop catches sight of him and fires, the shot echoing like thunder. The figure tumbles backward into the dark water, vanishing in a splash. Another leaps from the side, landing hard on the roof. The thud reverberates through the metal, followed by the rapid scrape of boots above them. Kendra shouts, "We've got company on the roof!" She slings her rifle and pulls her sidearm, moving toward the ladder at the front of the car. Bishop shifts to cover her, firing at flashes of movement in the tunnel behind them. Carter pushes the throttle harder, and the train groans into a higher speed. "If we can make it to the South Junction, we can lose them." Kendra climbs the ladder 2 rungs at a time, bursting onto the roof. The stale air above is thick with dust, every breath tasting like metal. Ahead, the tunnel stretches into endless shadow, the only light coming from the train's flickering headlamp. The attacker turns toward her, swinging a short-barreled shotgun. Kendra ducks under the blast, the pellets chewing into the rusted roof. She drives her shoulder into him, forcing the weapon wide before twisting it from his grip. With a sharp kick, she sends him tumbling over the side into the black water. Back inside, Bishop reloads as another hail of bullets tears through the siding. One grazes his arm and he grits his teeth, blood soaking into his sleeve. Reyes crawls to him, ripping a strip from his own shirt to tie off the wound. "Hold still," he mutters, hands shaking. The tunnel begins to widen, revealing branching tracks ahead. Carter leans over the console, scanning the old map. Left fork leads to the South Junction. Right fork leads somewhere unmarked. "Which one gets us out?" Bishop demands. "Left," Carter says, "but it's a longer route, more time for them to catch up." Kendra drops back into the car, her hair damp with sweat. "Roof's clear for now." She hears the choice laid out and makes it without hesitation. "We take the right. Unknown is better than predictable." Carter glances at her, hesitates, then yanks the lever. The train screeches as it switches to the unmarked track, sparks spitting from the contact points. The tunnel narrows almost immediately, the walls pressing close. This stretch feels older, raw stone and crude support beams instead of concrete. Water drips from above in steady beats, echoing off the walls. "Where the hell are we?" Bishop asks. Carter's eyes flick to the map, then to the growing darkness ahead. Someplace not on any official record, which means, before he can finish, the train bursts into an enormous cavern lit by dim, swaying lamps. Rows of abandoned rail cars sit rusting on side tracks, their doors chained shut. The air smells faintly of oil and something older, like dust that hasn't been disturbed in decades. "This is a graveyard," Reyes whispers. Kendra scans the shadows, her instincts prickling. "Or a hideout." A distant clang echoes through the cavern, followed by the slow grind of heavy machinery. Carter kills the train's lights and coasts it to a silent stop behind a row of derelict cars. Voices carry faintly from deeper inside the cavern, low, deliberate, and speaking a language Bishop doesn't recognize. Kendra checks her pistol, then looks at the others. Whatever this place is, it wasn't abandoned. From the far end of the cavern, a figure steps into the lamplight. He's tall, wearing a long coat that brushes the tops of his boots, and in his gloved hands is a folder stamped with a faded CIA seal. "Kendra Cole," he calls, his voice carrying easily in the still air. "You've brought exactly what I needed." Her stomach knots. Whoever this man is, he knows far too much. The cavern feels colder now, though the air hasn't changed. Kendra's grip tightens on her pistol, finger resting just outside the trigger guard. The man steps closer, the dim lamplight catching the edges of his weathered face. His eyes are sharp, scanning each of them with unsettling precision. Carter leans forward, whispering under his breath, "I don't like this." "Neither do I," Kendra replies without looking at him. The man stops a few meters away, just far enough to stay out of reach. "You've been a difficult woman to track, Agent Cole," he says. The way he says her name isn't casual. There's weight in it, like he's holding a piece of classified information nobody else should have. Bishop shifts his stance, keeping his rifle angled toward the man but not fully raised. "Who the hell are you?" The stranger smiles faintly, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Someone who's been waiting for this meeting for a very long time." He lifts the folder slightly, tapping it with 2 fingers. "Inside is everything I need to end the operation you've been working on, and maybe end you too." Reyes coughs, the sound echoing in the vast space. "That's a lot of talk for someone standing alone." The man tilts his head as if considering the comment. "Alone?" From the shadows behind him, 2 figures emerge, both armed, both moving with military precision. They take positions to his left and right, rifles steady, eyes locked on Kendra's team. Kendra's voice is calm, but her muscles are coiled, ready. "If you've been following us, then you know exactly what's in that folder. And you know it's not yours to take." The man shrugs. "Ownership is a matter of perspective. You see it as evidence. I see it as leverage." Carter steps forward, just enough to put himself slightly ahead of Kendra. "You're wasting your time. We're not handing anything over." The man's expression doesn't change, but his eyes flick to the armed guards. "Then we'll take it." The guards move in perfect sync, spreading out as they advance. Kendra signals subtly with her left hand, and Bishop shifts to flank the approaching men. The air is thick with tension, every step echoing in the cavern. Water drips steadily somewhere in the dark, the sound almost deafening in the silence between breaths. The first guard moves too close, and Bishop acts. His rifle comes up fast, the crack of the shot bouncing off the stone walls. The guard stumbles, clutching his shoulder, weapon clattering to the ground. The second guard reacts instantly, firing a short burst toward Bishop. The rounds spark against the rail car he's using for cover. Kendra fires back, forcing the man to retreat a few steps. Carter grabs Reyes by the arm, pulling him behind the rusting shell of a train for safety. The stranger in the long coat doesn't flinch during the exchange. Instead, he watches, calculating, studying how they move together. "You're good," he calls out over the noise. "Better than I expected, but you're still cornered." Kendra takes a breath, scanning the environment. The cavern's layout is rough in her mind now. Rows of abandoned cars, stacks of forgotten crates, the tunnel they came in through, and another, narrower passage on the far side, half hidden behind collapsed beams. She points with her chin toward the hidden passage. Carter catches the signal and nods. "Bishop, suppress," she orders. Bishop leans out, firing controlled burst bombs toward the guards. The echo fills the cavern, forcing the enemy to duck for cover. Kendra moves fast, sprinting toward the hidden passage. Carter is right behind her, half carrying Reyes, while Bishop falls back in short, sharp movements, covering each step. The man in the long coat watches them retreat, but doesn't give the order to chase, not yet. Instead, he kneels beside his wounded guard, retrieves the fallen rifle, and sets it aside. "They'll lead us where we need to go," he says quietly to the other man. "Follow at a distance. Let them think they've escaped." The hidden passage is barely wide enough for 2 people to move side by side. The air is damp and stale, and the floor is littered with debris from long-forgotten collapses. "This doesn't feel like an exit," Carter mutters. "It's not," Kendra says. "It's a chance to get out of his line of sight." They move deeper, the narrow walls pressing closer, the sound of their own breathing loud in the confined space. Somewhere behind them, faint footsteps echo, a reminder that they're not alone. After several minutes, the passage opens into a smaller chamber. An old generator hums faintly in the corner, its fuel gauge resting near empty. Rusted lockers line one wall, their doors hanging open, contents long gone. Bishop checks the perimeter while Kendra studies the generator. "If we can get this running at full capacity, we might be able to power up some kind of comms, maybe even open one of the sealed rail lines." Carter examines the controls. "It's old, but not dead. Give me a few minutes." Kendra nods, then turns to Bishop. "We hold here until he's ready." The footsteps are closer now. Shadows flicker against the walls at the far end of the passage. "Contact," Bishop warns. Kendra raises her weapon, sighting down the narrow corridor. "Hold your fire until you see them." A single figure steps into view. It's not one of the guards. This man is younger, nervous, his hands raised. His voice trembles. "Please, I'm not with them." Kendra doesn't lower her weapon. "Then who are you?" He glances over his shoulder, fear clear in his eyes. Someone who knows what that man really is and why he wants you alive. The young man stands frozen at the mouth of the passage, his chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. Dust drifts in the dim light behind him, and somewhere in the distance, the faint scrape of boots on stone reminds Kendra that danger is still closing in. "Talk," she orders, her voice low but sharp. The man swallows hard. His name isn't what he told you. He used to run covert extraction for a mercenary outfit. Now he's freelance. He's been paid to bring you in alive. Not the folder, you. Kendra doesn't move her weapon. Who paid him? The man's gaze flickers toward Carter and Bishop, then back to her. "I don't know for sure, but I heard something about Langford." The name lands like a stone in Kendra's stomach. Langford, a former agency handler who vanished after burning 3 operatives overseas. No one knew if he was dead or simply hiding. Bishop's eyes narrow. "If that's true, we've got bigger problems than a hired gun." The informant nods quickly. "I can get you out. I know tunnels he doesn't." "Why should we trust you?" Carter asks, his tone as suspicious as his stance. "Because if you don't," the man says, glancing nervously over his shoulder again, "he'll find you in less than 5 minutes. Kendra studies him for a beat longer, searching for the tiny tells that betray a liar. His pupils are blown wide, his shoulders trembling. Either he's terrified, or he's very, very good at pretending. Finally, she lowers her pistol slightly. "Move, show us." The man leads them away from the generator chamber, down a side corridor that smells of wet stone and rust. The air grows colder as they descend, and the sound of dripping water becomes constant, like a metronome marking each step. "You know these tunnels well," Kendra observes. "Worked here for years," the man says over his shoulder. "Maintenance crew before the trains stopped running. Learned every inch of it." "Name," Bishop demands. "Jonas," he answers without slowing. After several turns, the tunnel widens into an underground maintenance bay. A skeletal train car sits on rusted tracks, its windows shattered, graffiti curling along its sides. Jonas gestures toward it. "This car is still on an active spur. If we can get the switch engaged, it'll carry us out past the perimeter." Carter eyes the mechanism at the far end of the bay. "Looks manual. I'll need Bishop to help." Kendra keeps her weapon trained toward the dark opening they came from. Her instincts hum with tension. Jonas might be telling the truth, but the timing of his appearance is too perfect. As Carter and Bishop work the switch, Jonas steps closer to Kendra. His voice drops. "There's more you should know." "The man hunting you? He's not here for the agency's files. He's here because you've got something else, something you don't even know you're carrying." Kendra's eyes narrow. "You're going to explain that." Jonas glances toward the others before leaning in. "Check your jacket. Left inside pocket." She frowns but reaches in, and her fingers close around something small and metallic. When she pulls it free, her heart skips. It's a microdrive, barely the size of her thumbnail. She's never seen it before. Before she can ask, the bay erupts with gunfire. Bullets spark against the metal siding of the train car, forcing them all into cover. "They found us!" Bishop shouts. Kendra tucks the microdrive into her vest and returns fire, aiming for the muzzle flashes in the dark tunnel. Carter finishes cranking the switch into position, the old gears screaming in protest. "Go," Kendra orders. Jonas is the first to clamber into the skeletal car, followed by Reyes with Carter pushing from behind. Bishop covers the rear until the last possible moment, then leaps inside as the train lurches forward. The wheels grind against the rails, echoing like thunder in the confined space. Sparks dance beneath them as the train picks up speed, carrying them into deeper darkness. Kendra crouches low, her breathing ragged. Across from her, Jonas grips a support bar, his knuckles white. "Where does this line end?" she asks over the roar. "Old freight yard, half a mile beyond the outer fence," Jonas yells back. "From there, you can reach the river." "And him?" Carter cuts in. Jonas shakes his head grimly. "If he's smart, and he is, he'll try to cut you off before you get there." They ride in tense silence for a moment, the darkness broken only by the occasional flash of light from side tunnels. Then Kendra's earpiece crackles. A voice, distorted but urgent. "Cole, this is Langford." Her blood runs cold. "How did you get this channel?" A dry chuckle filters through the static. Oh, Kendra, you still don't understand. Every step you've taken since landing has been exactly where I wanted you to go. And now you've got my drive. The line goes dead. Kendra stares at the floor, jaw tight. She doesn't realize her hands are clenched until Carter speaks. What's on that thing? I don't know, she says, but I'm starting to think this mission wasn't what I thought it was. The train begins to slow, the sound of the wheels changing pitch. Jonas peers ahead. We're close to the yard, but if Langford's tracking you, it won't be empty. Bishop checks his rifle. Then we make sure anyone waiting regrets it. Kendra nods, slipping the pistol into her hand. No more running. If Langford wants me alive, we use that. The skeletal car rattles into the open, the night air cold and sharp against their faces. Ahead, floodlights snap on, bathing the yard in blinding white. Dozens of armed figures stand waiting. The floodlights burn like miniature suns, bleaching the color from everything. The skeletal train car screeches to a halt in the middle of the freight yard, surrounded by rusting containers and stacks of abandoned pallets. The icy night air tastes of diesel and metal. Kendra's eyes dart across the armed figures closing in. Their movements are disciplined. Military, not street thugs. Black tactical gear, suppressed rifles, helmets with integrated comms. Whoever Langford sent didn't come here to talk. Jonas swears under his breath. That's not his usual crew. These guys, they're ghosts. Bishop crouches low behind the train's fractured siding, scanning for a path out. No cover worth a damn. They've boxed us in. Carter racks a fresh round into his shotgun. Then we punch a hole big enough to walk through. Before Kendra can respond, a voice booms through a portable loudspeaker from somewhere beyond the ring of light. Smooth, confident, and instantly familiar. Kendra Cole, you've made this harder than it had to be. She steps toward the open edge of the car, squinting into the glare. Langford, you should have stayed gone. He laughs, a rich sound that echoes off the shipping containers. And miss this reunion? No, we have unfinished business. What's on the drive? She demands. There's a pause. Insurance, against people like you. Now be smart. Drop your weapon, step forward, and maybe your friends walk out of here. Bishop leans closer to her. He's lying. These guys won't let any of us walk. Kendra keeps her eyes on the light, her voice low. Agreed. We play along until we find the crack. Jonas tugs at her sleeve urgently. There's a maintenance trench under the far stack of containers. If you can get there, a sudden burst of gunfire cuts him off, forcing everyone down. The bullets punch through the side of the car, showering them with sparks and splinters of rusted steel. They're not waiting, Carter growls. Kendra signals Bishop with 2 quick hand gestures. He nods, shifting his position toward the back end of the car. Carter moves opposite, while Jonas hugs the floor. Cover me, Kendra orders. She pops up, firing a controlled burst toward the nearest cluster of shadows. One goes down, another staggers back. In that instant, Bishop vaults from the car, landing hard and rolling into the deeper shadow between 2 container stacks. Move! Kendra yells. Carter follows, laying down fire as Jonas scrambles after him. The air fills with the metallic clatter of spent casings, the deep thud of suppressed rounds, and the acrid tang of gunpowder. They reach the base of the containers, breath ragged, just as Bishop wrenches open a rusted hatch in the ground. A narrow ladder descends into darkness. In, Bishop urges. Now! Kendra drops first, the echo of her boots ringing in the confined space. The tunnel is barely wide enough for one person, lined with corroded pipes and cables thick with dust. Carter follows, then Jonas, with Bishop slamming the hatch shut above them. Muffled shouts filter down through the metal. The thud of boots on hollow steel tells them the attackers have reached the train. This tunnel leads where? Kendra asks as they push forward, flashlights cutting thin cones of light through the dark. Under the east fence, Jonas says, voice echoing, opens near the riverbank. From there, the floor shudders beneath them. A deep concussive boom rolls through the tunnel, knocking loose grit from the ceiling. They've got charges, Bishop mutters, trying to collapse the access points. We keep moving, Kendra says. Minutes later, they reach a grated exit that opens into a thicket of scrub and dead grass. The river glimmers beyond, black and fast under the winter moon. Jonas starts forward, but Kendra catches his arm. You've been too eager to help. Why? He hesitates, then sighs. Langford burned me too. I want him gone. and I figure you're the only one who can make that happen. She studies him for a beat, then lets go. If you're lying, you won't see it coming. They move toward the riverbank, keeping low. But as they reach the edge, figures emerge from the shadows. 4 men in the same tactical gear as before, weapons already up. One steps forward, voice low and certain. "Agent Cole, Mr. Langford would like a private word." Bishop and Carter raise their guns, but Kendra lifts a hand to stop them. She can feel the microdrive against her chest, a cold reminder of the leverage Langford holds. "I'll go," she says, "alone." "No way," Carter snaps. "It's the only way to get close enough to end this." The lead operative gestures for her to move. She walks toward them, hands loose at her sides, eyes never leaving their masks. One of them falls in beside her, the barrel of his rifle angled down but ready. They lead her along the river until a figure steps out from behind a black SUV parked in the shadows. Langford, tall, immaculate even in the cold, with that same infuriating half-smile he wore the day she last saw him. "Kendra," he says warmly, as if greeting an old friend, "you still know how to make an entrance. You still know how to ruin everything you touch," she replies. His smile widens. "And yet here you are, with my property." She taps the front of her vest. "This, not yours anymore." Langford chuckles. "We'll see." He gestures toward the SUV. "Let's talk somewhere warmer." Kendra steps closer, her expression calm. "Here's my counteroffer." Her hand moves so fast it's a blur, the small concealed blade sliding free from her sleeve. She drives it into the tire of the SUV with a hiss of escaping air, then spins away just as Bishop's rifle cracks from the shadows. 2 of Langford's operatives drop instantly. Chaos erupts on the riverbank. Carter charges from the dark, tackling the nearest gunman. Jonas hurls a chunk of concrete, knocking a rifle from another's hands. Langford retreats toward the SUV, shouting orders, but Kendra is already moving, closing the distance with a predator's focus. This time, there will be no more running. The riverbank is chaos, muzzle flashes strobing in the dark, the sharp metallic scent of gunpowder mixing with the cold air. Kendra's boots pound against frozen earth as she closes the gap between herself and Langford. He backpedals toward the SUV, one hand fishing inside his coat. She knows that movement, it's not for a weapon, but for the tiny encrypted transmitter he favors. Once he activates it, reinforcements will swarm this place. "Don't," she warns, voice like steel. Langford smirks, his breath misting in the air. "You've gotten slower." His thumb hovers over the button. A crack splits the night. Bishop's rifle. The transmitter flies from Langford's hand, shattering against the SUV's door. One of his operatives lunges for Kendra, trying to slam her to the ground. She sidesteps, grabs his wrist, and uses his momentum to flip him over her shoulder. He lands hard, the air leaving him in a groan. Another charges, swinging his rifle like a club. Kendra ducks, drives her elbow into his ribs, and rips the weapon free. Behind her, Carter is in a brutal grapple with 2 men at once, shotgun discarded in favor of fists. One goes down after a crushing knee to the chest. The other catches an uppercut that sends him staggering into the river, ice breaking around his body. Langford makes a dash for the driver's side of the SUV. Kendra sprints after him, boots slipping slightly on frost, heart hammering in her ears. He yanks the door open, but before he can get in, she slams it shut with the full force of her shoulder. The impact rattles the frame. "Where's the rest of the data?" she demands. He feigns confusion. "What data?" "The drive you have is only half the story," she says. "You sent your people to die for fragments." Langford chuckles even now. "I always admired your instinct, Cole, but you're playing checkers in a chess match." Bishop moves in from the left, rifle up, eyes locked on Langford. "End of the line." "Not quite," Langford replies, and that's when Kendra catches the faint, high-pitched whine in the air. Drones. 3 of them drop into view from the darkness above, each armed with mounted micro-turrets. A red targeting beam sweeps across the ground. "Get down!" Kendra shouts. They dive behind the SUV as the first burst of fire rips into the dirt, spraying chunks of frozen mud into the air. Carter rolls to the other side of the vehicle, pulling a compact EMP device from his coat. "I've got one shot at this," he warns. Kendra peeks out long enough to count the drone's positions, 2 circling low, 1 hovering high for overwatch. "Wait until they line up," she instructs. The low drones swing in for another pass. Carter presses the trigger. A pulse of blue light arcs across the night, and all 3 machines drop like stones, their rotors whining to a stop. Bishop grins. Nice. Langford uses the distraction to break for the river path, disappearing into the tangle of reeds. Kendra is after him instantly. Cover us! She calls over her shoulder. The path is narrow, muddy even in the frost, reeds whipping at her face as she runs. Langford is fast, but the ground is uneven, and he stumbles once, twice. Finally, she catches him near a collapsed section of the riverbank where the water laps hungrily at the edge. She grabs his coat and wrenches him back. This ends now, she says, voice low. Langford breathes hard, but his smile never fades. You think this is about me? He nods toward the microdrive still strapped to her vest. That's a key to a door you don't want to open. I'll take my chances. In one smooth motion, she pulls a pair of cuffs from her belt and snaps them around his wrists. You're coming with me. From behind them, Bishop and Carter emerge from the reeds, weapons still ready. Got him? Bishop asks. Oh, I've got him, Kendra says, tightening her grip on the chain between the cuffs. As they lead Langford back toward the SUV, headlights appear in the distance, cutting through the night. Bishop raises his rifle, but Kendra stops him. That's ours, she says. The vehicle pulls up, tires crunching over frost. A man in a dark suit steps out, flipping open a badge. Agency retrieval team, we'll take him from here. Kendra doesn't move. He's not leaving my sight until I've secured the rest of the intel. The agent nods. Then you ride with us. Langford chuckles under his breath. Looks like we're traveling together after all. As they load him into the back of the car, Kendra glances at Bishop. Keep Carter and Jonas safe. We're not done yet. Bishop nods once. We'll hold position until you call. The car pulls away from the freight yard, the night swallowing the chaos they've left behind. Kendra stares out the window, the microdrive heavy against her chest. Whatever is on it, it's worth more than Langford's life, and that means someone much bigger is pulling the strings. She leans back in her seat, eyes never leaving Langford's reflection in the glass. This isn't over, she says. Langford's smirk deepens. No, Agent Cole. It's just getting started. The SUV hums along the desolate highway, tires whispering against cracked asphalt. Outside, skeletal trees claw at the night sky, their twisted branches blurring past. Inside, the air is thick with unspoken tension. Kendra sits opposite Langford, the hum of the engine masking the faint clink of his handcuffs. His gaze is steady, almost amused, like a man watching a storm roll in knowing he's already inside the eye. You've been quiet, she says, her voice low but edged with steel. Just savoring the moment, Langford replies. It's not often I get chauffeured by the people trying to destroy me. You destroyed yourself, she fires back. Whatever's on that microdrive will change everything you think you know, he interrupts, leaning forward just enough for his shadow to fall across her. And trust me, Cole, the agency isn't ready for what's coming. The driver keeps his eyes on the road, expression unreadable. The agent in the passenger seat glances into the rearview mirror every few seconds, like he's measuring the distance to some invisible threat. Kendra notices it. Years of fieldwork have tuned her instincts to the smallest details. Something is off. You two from Langley? She asks the front. The driver doesn't answer. The passenger finally says, We're contracted, special assignment. Kendra's pulse ticks up a notch. Contracted. That's a polite way of saying outside the official chain. Langford catches her eye and smiles. See, you're not as in control as you think. Before she can respond, the SUV slows. The driver pulls onto a narrow service road flanked by thick pines. This isn't the route to HQ, Kendra says sharply. The passenger half turns, his hand resting near his holster. Orders changed. Kendra's own hand drifts toward her concealed sidearm. Whose orders? The answer comes in the form of a gun barrel, leveled at her chest. Langford chuckles. Told you. Chess, not checkers. The passenger's voice is cold. Step out, Agent Cole. Now! Kendra studies him for half a second. The angle of his grip, the way his eyes flick to the tree line. This is an ambush, and they're not just after Langford. Fine, she says, sliding toward the door. As she steps out, her left hand brushes against the cuff chain between Langford's wrists. She applies just enough pressure to pass him a message without words. Stay ready. The night is colder here, the air biting at her face. The trees stand like sentinels, shadows stretching long across the ground. From the darkness, two more figures emerge, both in tactical gear, both carrying suppressed submachine guns. One of them addresses the driver. Package secured? The driver nods toward Langford. And a bonus. Kendra catches the faintest movement, Langford's cuffs shifting. She remembers the microblade he once kept hidden inside a cuff seam, a trick from a decade-old op in Prague. The man with the SMG steps closer to Kendra, his breath visible in the cold. Hand over the drive. She keeps her voice even. And if I don't? He tilts his head. Then we make this messy. A flicker of motion. Langford's cuffs snap open. In one fluid move, he drives his elbow into the driver's throat, grabs the man's sidearm, and pivots toward the tree line. The clearing erupts in Kate. Kendra ducks as gunfire shreds the quiet, diving for cover behind the SUV. One tactical steps toward her position, but she sweeps his legs with a low kick, sending him sprawling. She grabs his weapon before he can recover and fires 3 quick bursts into the second assailant's chest plate, dropping him. Langford is already moving through the trees, the driver's weapon in hand. Kendra curses under her breath. She can't let him disappear now, not with the microdrive's other half still out there. She sprints after him, boots crunching over frost-hardened earth, weaving between trunks. Branches whip against her arms as she pushes deeper into the forest. Somewhere ahead, Langford's footsteps crunch and then stop. She slows, listening. The silence is oppressive, the kind that makes your heartbeat sound like a drum. A voice drifts from the dark. "You're good, Cole, but you're chasing the wrong enemy." She turns toward the sound. Langford steps into view, weapon lowered but ready. His breath mists between them. "You think the people in that SUV were mine?" he asks. "They work for someone in your building." The words land heavier than she expects. "You're lying." "Am I? How else did they know where to intercept us? How else would they know I had you and the drive in the same vehicle?" Kendra keeps her weapon steady. "Names, now." He smiles faintly. "I'll give you the name, but only when you get me out of here alive." A snap of branches to her left. More figures are moving in. This time, Kendra doesn't hesitate. "Deal," she says, and moves. They sprint side by side through the forest, ducking low as tracer fire cuts through the trees behind them. The ground slopes sharply downward, and they slide the last few feet into a dried-out creek bed. Langford leans against a fallen log, catching his breath. "You just made the smartest or dumbest choice of your career." Kendra checks the tree line above them. "That depends on how fast you start talking." Above them, flashlights sweep through the darkness. Voices call out, calm, methodical, like hunters closing in on prey. Langford's tone drops. "You're looking for someone high, someone with clearance to erase you with a single phone call, and they've already put that call in." Kendra's jaw tightens. "Then we better move before it goes through." She shoulders her weapon, and together they vanish deeper into the shadows. The creek bed winds like a scar through the forest, its dry stones crunching under their boots. Every step echoes too loudly, but stopping isn't an option. Behind them, the beams of flashlights cut through the dark like blades, sweeping across tree trunks and brush. Voices murmur, organized, controlled. Whoever is hunting them isn't a random militia or a rogue unit. These are professionals. Langford keeps his pace steady, even with the cold biting into his lungs. "You hear that cadence?" he asks without looking back. Kendra listens. The pursuers aren't crashing through the underbrush, they're moving in coordinated bursts, covering angles. "Military training," she says. "Better," Langford replies. "Agency training." The words hit her harder than the cold wind. If he's right, it means the hunters aren't just after him. They're after her too. They stop under a jagged overhang where the creek bends sharply. The rock face hides them from immediate sight, but it won't hold for long. Kendra checks her mag, half full. Langford does the same, giving her a look that says neither of them has enough ammo for what's coming. "You promised me a name," she says, her voice low but sharp. Langford leans against the rock, his breath visible in the thin moonlight. "A promise I'll keep. But you need to understand, this person isn't just an informant or a dirty agent. They're the kind of operative you build missions around. Every high-value asset you've ever guarded, every operation you've ever run, odds are they've had their fingerprints on it." "Name," she presses. Langford hesitates, eyes narrowing as if weighing whether saying it here, in the open, is worth the risk. The sound of a twig snapping above them breaks the moment. Kendra's head jerks upward, scanning the lip of the creek bed. 2 beams of light sweep dangerously close. "They're almost here," Langford says, already moving. They scramble deeper along the creek, the ground turning slick with frost. Kendra's mind races. If Langford is telling the truth, someone inside the CIA set this ambush. That means there will be no safe return to HQ, no easy extraction. The forest opens into a clearing where the moonlight spills across a crumbling maintenance shack, its corrugated metal walls rusted and peeling. Langford nods toward it. We hole up there, just for a few minutes. Inside, the air smells of oil and damp wood. A single dusty window looks out toward the tree line. Kendra positions herself there, scanning the darkness. Langford crouches near the far wall, pulling something from inside his jacket. At first glance, it's a folded scrap of paper, but when he hands it to her, she sees the microprint. Hundreds of tiny characters, only readable with the agency's encryption lens. This, he says, is the other half of the drive's contents. Kendra's eyes snap to his. You've had it on you the whole time? You think I'd put all my leverage in one place? Langford's tone is almost amused. The drive is useless without this, and this is useless without the drive. Together, they prove exactly who's been running black-budget operations under your nose. And you're just going to hand this to me? I'm going to hand it to the person who can survive long enough to use it. Footsteps crunch outside. A shadow passes across the window. Kendra signals Langford to stay low. The door creaks open an inch before she kicks it shut with enough force to make the frame shudder. They're sweeping the area, Langford whispers. If they find us, this turns into a kill box. Kendra scans the shack. A ladder leans against the back wall, leading to a hatch in the roof. She motions for him to move. Up, now! They climb quietly, emerging onto the roof where frost glitters in the moonlight. From here, the forest looks endless, but Kendra spots a faint glow in the distance. A service road with a single street lamp. They cross the roof and drop silently into the shadows on the far side. The gunmen enter the shack below them, their muffled voices rising in frustration. Moving fast, Kendra leads Langford toward the glow. Every step feels like it's pulling them deeper into enemy territory, but staying in one place means certain capture. When they reach the service road, it's eerily empty. A faded green sign points toward a decommissioned ranger station 2 miles ahead. That's our best shot, Kendra says. Langford smirks. 2 miles with them on our tail? You better hope you're faster than you look. They set off at a steady jog, the road crunching underfoot. The silence between them is thick, but Kendra knows she needs more than silence. She needs that name. Tell me, she says. Who's the mole? Langford's voice is low, deliberate. Ever hear of Adrian Cross? Kendra freezes mid-stride. Cross isn't just a name. He's a legend in agency circles. A strategist who never missed. A handler trusted with the most delicate ops. She'd worked under him once, years ago. That's impossible, she says. Is it? Who else could coordinate an op like this without raising alarms? Who else has the reach to pull in contractors, erase comm logs, and reroute agents in real time? Before she can answer, headlights flare behind them. A black SUV barrels down the road, its engine growling. Kendra shoves Langford into the ditch. Bullets chew through the asphalt where they stood seconds earlier. The SUV skids to a halt, doors flying open. 3 figures emerge, rifles raised. Langford's voice is barely audible. Those aren't contractors. That's Cross's personal retrieval team. Kendra grips her weapon tighter. Then they're not taking either of us alive. The forest holds its breath as the two sides face off, the glow of the street lamp flickering like a dying heartbeat. The icy wind slices across the service road, carrying the faint smell of oil from the SUV's idling engine. Kendra's finger hovers on the trigger, her breath measured. Across from her, 3 figures in matte black tactical gear fan out, their rifles tracking every subtle shift in her stance. The leader, taller than the others, keeps his weapon leveled at her chest. Langford crouches low in the ditch, his eyes locked on the team. These aren't standard hitters, he murmurs. Every move is textbook. I know, Kendra replies, never breaking her gaze. The leader takes a step forward, boots crunching on the frost. His voice is calm, almost conversational. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. Hand it over and you walk away. Kendra almost laughs. Walk away? With Cross's fingerprints all over this mess? You'd hunt me halfway around the world. A small pause, then the man tilts his head slightly, just enough to signal the 2 on his flanks. They begin to circle, slow but deliberate. Langford tenses. They're boxing us in. Not yet, Kendra says, shifting her weight. Her mind is already mapping the terrain. The ditch curves toward a drainage tunnel 50 yards ahead. The service road drops into a blind turn another 20 beyond that. 2 escape routes, both dangerous. The man on the left makes his move first, stepping too close to the ditch. Kendra fires a controlled burst, not to kill, but to force him back. The muzzle flash lights the night, and instantly the clearing erupts in gunfire. Bullets slice through the frost, chipping asphalt and chewing into the roadside brush. Langford drops flat, his hand clutching the folded microprint like it's fused to his skin. "Move!" Kendra barks, hauling him up by his jacket. They sprint toward the drainage tunnel, rounds hissing past them. They dive into the ditch, sliding on wet leaves. The tunnel looms ahead, dark, low, and reeking of stagnant water. Kendra shoves Langford inside first, then turns to fire a last burst down the ditch. The SUV's headlights cut harsh shadows across the embankment, but the retrieval team holds position now, unwilling to follow into the tunnel blind. The space inside is tight, their footsteps splashing in shallow water. The sound of the firefight fades, replaced by the slow, steady drip of water from the ceiling. Langford breathes hard. That Tess was too close. That, Kendra corrects, was just a warning shot from Cross. They emerge from the other end into dense underbrush. The moonlight barely reaches here, the trees so thick they swallow most of the night sky. Somewhere far off, the rumble of the SUV's engine fades as it takes the road's blind turn. Kendra checks her compass, orienting toward the ranger station they'd seen on the sign. 2 miles, maybe less if we cut straight through. Langford follows without a word, his usual sarcasm gone. It's clear he's replaying the standoff in his head, calculating just how deep Cross's reach really goes. Half a mile in, they hit an old fence, its chain links sagging with rust. Beyond it, a narrow maintenance path cuts through the forest toward a cluster of weathered cabins. Kendra stops, scanning the shadows. "These cabins, government property?" she asks. "Once," Langford says, "Cold War listening posts. Most were decommissioned decades ago." "Most," she echoes, stepping through a gap in the fence. The cabins are silent, their windows boarded and roofs caving in, but one has a faint light leaking from a crack in the boards. Kendra raises a hand for silence, then creeps to the side window. Inside, a lone figure sits at a table littered with maps and radio parts. Langford peers over her shoulder. "That's Ryan Hale, former field tech for Cross. Hale was officially discharged years ago for security breaches. Seeing him here, deep in the forest, means one thing. He's still on Cross's payroll." Kendra makes her move. She slips inside through a broken panel in the wall, weapon drawn. "Hands where I can see them." Hale freezes, then slowly raises his palms. "You're not supposed to be here," he says, voice calm but tight. "No," Kendra replies. "Neither are you. But here we are." Langford enters behind her, his expression cold. "You're going to tell her exactly what Cross is running and why his team just tried to kill us." Hale exhales slowly. "You think this is about you two? Cross is moving something classified even above your clearance, and if you're smart, you'll stop chasing it and disappear." "Not happening," Kendra says. Hale studies her for a moment, then gestures toward the maps. "Then you need to understand what's coming." On the largest map, a red line snakes across several states, ending in a remote airstrip near the coast. Markers note drop points, coded rendezvous times. "This, Hale says, is the movement schedule for a package Cross doesn't want on record. Whatever it is, it's the reason you're alive right now, because killing you would disrupt delivery." Kendra feels the weight of it settling in her chest. If Cross is risking this much, the package isn't just important, it's catastrophic. Langford meets her eyes. "We intercept it, we end this." Hale shakes his head. "You try, you die. Cross won't send retrieval teams next time. He'll send executioners." Kendra holsters her weapon, but her voice is firm. "Then we'd better move fast." Outside, the wind picks up, carrying with it the distant growl of an engine. The retrieval team isn't far behind. The forest is a wall of shadows as Kendra, Langford, and Hale push deeper toward the coastal airstrip. Every step is a calculated gamble. Move too slow, and they lose the package. Move too fast, and Cross's team catches up. The moon has slipped behind thick clouds, turning the path ahead into a tunnel of black. Kendra keeps her rifle low but ready, every sound amplified. The crunch of frost under boots, the rustle of dry leaves, the low hum of Hale's handheld scanner tracking encrypted radio bursts. "They're ahead of us," Hale whispers, eyes locked on the scanner. 2 SUVs, maybe 3, full tactical loadout. Langford frowns. "Then they're not just transporting the package, They're protecting it like it's a warhead. By the time they reach the ridge overlooking the airstrip, the first signs of movement flicker below. Twin beams from SUV headlights slice across the tarmac, followed by the rumble of an aircraft engine turning over. The package is minutes from being airborne. Kendra studies the setup through her scope. Gulfstream jet, 2 pilots, 4 on the ground, plus Cross himself. No sign of what they're loading. Langford adjusts his binoculars, his voice low but sharp. That's because it's in that black crate they're guarding like it's made of glass. The scene below moves with military precision. Cross stands near the crate, barking orders, his presence radiating the kind of authority that bends people without breaking them. His eyes sweep the perimeter more than once, and Kendra knows he's already factoring in unseen threats. Hale mutters, "You want to stop that jet? You have 2 minutes, maybe less." Kendra's mind runs through options. Charging straight in is suicide. Waiting means the package vanishes into airspace. That leaves one move, cut them off before the plane's wheels leave the ground. They slip down the ridge, using the dark to mask their approach. Kendra signals for silence as they move between stacks of rusted shipping containers left from the airstrip's smuggling days. Every shadow feels alive, every gust of wind like a footstep. They're 20 yards from the crate when one of Cross's men turns, catching a glint of metal from Langford's rifle. "Contact!" the man shouts. The airstrip explodes into chaos. Floodlights flare to life, burning away the cover of night. The roar of the jet's engines drowns out the shouts as gunfire erupts from both sides. Kendra dives behind a container, bullets sparking off the metal. She returns fire, dropping one guard, but 2 more surge forward. Langford flanks left, laying down suppressive fire, while Hale ducks toward the crate. Cross's voice cuts through the noise. "Secure the package! Leave them!" The crate is hoisted onto a motorized lift, the plane's cargo bay yawning open. Kendra sees her chance. She breaks cover, sprinting toward the lift. A round slices past her ear, close enough to burn, but she doesn't slow. She tackles the nearest guard, knocking him off the platform and grabs the edge of the crate. Up close, the crate's markings make her blood run cold. A series of symbols she recognizes from classified briefings, biohazard indicators tied to black-budget weapons programs. She shouts over the engine noise, "Langford, this isn't just intel, it's a delivery system." Langford's eyes widen. "Then we can't let it leave the ground." Cross sees her now, recognition flickering across his face. "Agent Shaw," he calls, voice steady despite the chaos, "you're in over your head. Walk away and I'll make sure you live to regret it instead of die here." Kendra tightens her grip on the crate. "You've been killing people for less than what's in here. Not tonight." Cross signals to his men, and 3 converge on her position. She fires point blank, forcing them back, but one manages to clip her shoulder. Pain flares, but she doesn't release the crate. Hale slams the lift's control panel, sending the platform lurching downward. The crate jolts, nearly toppling, but Kendra steadies it with her good arm. Langford moves in, covering them with precise bursts. The jet's engines scream at full throttle, the pilot impatient. Cross barks something into his earpiece, and the plane starts to roll. "We're out of time," Langford yells. Kendra makes the call. "Blow the tires." Langford switches to armor-piercing rounds and fires 3 rapid shots. The left landing gear erupts in sparks, shredding rubber and sending the jet skidding sideways. The pilot kills the engines, alarms blaring. Cross stands frozen for half a second, long enough for Kendra to level her weapon at him. End of the line. His smirk is slow, deliberate. For now. Then he drops his sidearm and raises his hands. By the time federal backup arrives, Cross is in cuffs, his men disarmed, and the crate secured under triple containment protocols. The air is thick with the smell of fuel and scorched rubber. Langford leans against a container, his breath finally slowing. "You know he'll walk, right? Men like him always do." Kendra nods, her eyes on the crate being loaded into a secure transport. Maybe, but not with his package, and not without the world knowing what he was willing to unleash. As dawn breaks over the coast, the first rays of sunlight cut through the fading mist. The mission is over, but Kendra knows the war is not. Somewhere, someone is already planning the next move, and when they do, she'll be there, ready.